Connection.
Wake up, tune in, co-create.
This podcast is brought to you by Great Spirit Herbs and Supplements. Yeah, well, since I had you on the first time, I was supposed to have a few other guests, but I didn't because time got the best of me. So this is turning into the Tom Barnett podcast. It's like, but maybe I'll wait till I get another one and put it in between, so it's not like 1 and 2. It might be 1 and 3 or 1 and 4.
Probably a good idea.
But yeah, very good to have you back on and talk about some positive stuff as well as we can, I guess.
Yeah.
Be as positive as we can
I actually like to take...
and as real as we can.
Yes. And I like to take negative stuff and turn it into positive stuff too, because now that I remember it, there was actually some stuff to bring up that was negative in nature, but it's just like, I think people are missing the point, and then to turn it into positives. But yeah, we'll see where we go with the chat.
Okay. So first off, in between the time that we spoke and now, you went on a very, well, I was about to say beautiful journey, but I have no idea what the journey was like. So would you like to tell us what you've done and from the heart, just share how the experience was for you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, in the first chat, people like Owen Benjamin was saying, "Oh, Tom interviewed his twin or something," because we've got like, and now we're in the exact same chat, and it was not planned. Just so people
Not
know,
planned,
we did not plan this. But yeah, so we brought up, well, you brought up plant medicine last time, and you just said that you were surprised when we first spoke that I hadn't done ayahuasca or whatever, that just because of, or for whatever reason, and then I was just expressing how I just don't think I've ever met somebody who articulates their experience with it in a way that I think is in line with what they're actually saying, and also that they've actually found anything that and it's only my own perception. I'm not saying I'm right either, but I'm just like, I've never met anybody that explains it and I go, that's something that I should do. However, I have, as I said before, prescribed mushrooms, MDMA therapy, ayahuasca, peyote, various forms of medicines for other people. I just was never called to it myself. Especially with how it is in the environment that we're in. I was always like, if it ever happened, I'm not against anything. Like, I'll do actually pretty much anything if the experience feels right, if there's a synchronicity to it, if it's not coming from trying to seek something outside of myself or whatever. Yeah. So for example, we could just be sitting in town and then some elder walks over and goes, we're going to go in those bushes over there and do a ceremony. I'd be like, all right, well, this is like, I'm not seeking it out, it's calling me. Because my understanding of, again, not saying I'm right, but my understanding of the way a real shaman would be, for example, is that you would only know of them if you got taken to them by word of mouth, by synchronicity. They wouldn't have an Instagram account. They wouldn't charge you $500 or whatever. It'd be a very natural way about the experience without it being like it is around here, where a lot of up in the hills, they're running black magic sex cults and luring people in to do multiple ayahuasca ceremonies and all that sort of stuff, and really fucking the spirit of the land and the plant, and
energy harvesting and
and literally doing other stuff that they shouldn't be doing. So
just extracting.
Yeah. So what happened was, literally after we spoke, and I said, because I still haven't tapped into my emotional body to any high degree, and I need to start doing that. And I said, I remember in the podcast that I'm willing to start looking at these kinds of avenues because I think that I don't think I've exhausted every avenue, but I think I've done lots of different avenues of wanting to develop and break through that aspect and haven't really got as far as I imagined that I would like. And then after that, it came up that there was this grandmother tree ceremony coming up. And initially I was interested in just seeing what it was about. And then I found out more about it. And it doesn't really sound like the right thing. But then what happened was, I'm not going to name names in this story, by the way, just because.
No, of course.
But there was an elder that was going to be present. And when I knew who it was, I was like, well, that's going to change things a lot. And so then I became more interested in it again, but it was still going to be based on my own how I wanted. I was kind of I wasn't trying to control it. I was just kind of had this.
You were just observing yourself and making sure, being clear with yourself. Yeah,
exactly that. But also just making sure that the surrounding circumstances were going to be okay with how I would perceive something like that I would want to enter into energetically. And so it started to become something that I was interested in. And it was good because I wasn't seeking it out. When I found out about the plant, which was acacia, it was the one that I had originally thought that I would try when it came time to do this sort of thing. Not just acacia, but it's this specific grandmother tree, which is, you don't know how to find that unless you're specifically taught through a lineage of that ancestry.
And it's been kept incredibly secret.
Exactly, yeah.
Since colonization.
Exactly. And of I think 1,000 different types of acacia that are on this land, I think 300 have the, what do you call it? Psychotropic or hallucinogenic effect. Just that they have that effect. They're not just like a plant that, So there's 300 odd that do that. And this is the only one that doesn't require mixing with anything else. So for example, if you do ayahuasca, it's mixed with it's a mixture of plants, for example, right? Same with acacia.
It has an inhibitor component, which blocks the brain from inhibiting the compound.
Yeah. So this is the only one that doesn't have that. It's
because it's mixed in.
Well, this plant in itself is everything it needs to be. It doesn't require mixing with anything else. So
pretty cool.
A lot of it there's a lot of connotations to it that I was like, hey, this is feeling like the right thing. And one of the reasons I'm not going to name names is I'll share my experience, but I don't want anybody to feel that it was like I'm judging because there was a lot of things I didn't think were good and there was a lot of things I thought were great. So just in the interest of being open and sharing what my experience was, I'll share both. But I don't want anyone to feel that it was in any way, like anything that they could take negatively from it, for example, for their own experience.
Yeah.
And so leading into it, I was pretty good. I actually spoke to somebody who's a bit of one of the real people who you do have to find in ways that, and this guy is very tapped in. I could literally talk about you, mention your name, and he'll just immediately just know you. He'll just know you. He'll just know stuff. He can explain your behaviors. He can explain your relationship to me. He can explain everything. And I'm just like, how do you do that? It's phenomenal.
Wow.
It's a real gift. And it's somebody, when you meet people like that, and I've actually come across quite a few, and I realized that in this community, there's quite a few of them, and they're all older than me, for one, and you have to find them. They're through word of mouth, or you just synchronicities lead you to them. It's not like you sought them out or whatever. They're not famous. They're not well known. And he's one of those, and genuinely is what you would call a healer in the real sense, not the Byron Bay sense of a healer. And I spoke to him because I just wanted to check and make sure I said, and the reason I asked him this question is because I know that once people go and do plant ceremonies and stuff, he doesn't want to work on them again. Something happens in their bodies or their being or something. He doesn't work on them after that. And so I just wanted to check in with him, and I said, look, there's this acacia ceremony. It's got such and such a elder, because he knows of the people around. I go, what's your experience with him? And he just kind of tuned into the thing, and he told me a bit about it he didn't know anything about it, but he told me stuff that you wouldn't know unless. And he said, this is what it's really about. And he just gave me a set of just going like this. And so I listened, and so it was good. So anyway, I'll go to the experience. Essentially, I'm just painting the picture of things led to me being there, which was calling me to be there rather than seeking it out, for example.
Yep.
So I was going in very open with no expectations of it's going to be this, I'm going to get that. I was just clear and open for the experience of whatever it might be. And the location, which I won't disclose, but it was very busy. And that was a bit
public.
Of a put off because there's people doing drugs in the car park, and there's it was near town, for example. So it's just like a Saturday. So people are partying, doing their general Byron Bay thing so there's just that sort of stuff going on. It wasn't outdoors, it was enclosed, but it's just around an area where there was not the right energy around it, if you know what I mean. But anyway, I'm open and I'm just going in, and at any point, I'm still okay to leave at this point in myself. if anything is there that doesn't feel right, I'm already resolved in myself. Like, it doesn't matter that I paid for it. If I feel like it's not the right thing to mess around with, I'm going to go. If the energy's not right, I'm leaving.
Sure.
And so I just, right up to the point, I was going to bail at any time. So when I go in there, it also didn't feel that good because it kind of felt like a bit of an opium den, because I think they'd saged it and there was just smoky in the air and everyone's laying down and stuff. And I was like, oh, I didn't know what to expect, but it wasn't that. I was kind of like,
oh man, I wish I was a fly on the wall for
yeah.
this. It would have been so funny.
So I already made it clear to people, not because of who was there or I knew how many people were going to be there, just that I wanted to be very in my own experience, not chatty chat, not shake hands, not hug people. I just didn't want physical contact with people. I wanted to really embody the experience. And so I made it clear I wanted to be polite and make that known so that people didn't think I was standoffish or anything like that. So that was all fine. I met the guy who's the facilitator, who I won't name, but I had thought he was a white boy.
What do you mean by that?
A white boy.
What's a white boy?
Like just anybody around here who's like decided to start serving
right, okay. I thought you meant
medicine.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Go on.
Yeah, and he wasn't, so that was good.
Cool.
That was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
For some reason, a few of us assumed he was just like, just a white guy who was serving these medicines. But had lineage, obviously, and that was good to see. Not that it matters a whole lot, but it's just I've seen too much of the, like somebody who just didn't want to be an accountant anymore and decided to become a ceremonial server of ancient medicines that he probably doesn't have any business doing.
Yeah. And
so that was nice to know that he actually did have a lineage, that there's a authenticity there, which felt good. That calmed things to a degree. So the elder that's there, I thought he was going to be part of the ceremony. He wasn't. He was actually just there in the space. And what happened?
Grounding.
Yeah. As it started, he was outside playing the didge and doing something through the didge, which was, I've never heard anyone play the didge like that. Like speaking in tongues through the didge while he's playing the didge and stuff. And this guy, I'll tell you who it is after because you know him. And it was, you could just feel it. Like there was something that no matter what was going on out in the surrounding area, which wasn't to my taste, he put this ring essentially around this place and it was a whole other world. And it was so it was different.
Cool.
Like total enclosed, safe, sacred environment. It was amazing. Because someone else actually turned up and left. They said, I'm not sitting in that. But they didn't come in, so I didn't feel what it was like once this began. So that was good. And what was really good for me was I was breaking through a lot of my own judgments and preconceptions about what this sort of stuff is like. And the negativity that I had carrying in, even though I came in with no expectations, I still had some negativity around the type of people that were there. I thought the guy was a white boy. The only reason I was there is because the elder was there. And all of these preconceived judgments started to fall away, which was really good because it was humbling for me.
Yep.
So right up to the point where the medicine's about to come out, I was still almost about to leave because I wasn't 100% sure I was 100% comfortable. But then, all this started with the didge and some of the ceremonial aspects. And I was like, this is great. Then comes out the medicine and it comes out in like a 1.5 litre, used probably several times, like Mount Franklin. I'm like, what is that?
You know what? That's so funny because that's actually what the shamans do in the middle of the Amazon.
I've heard.
And that's, it shocked me, but it's just so practical for them that's why they do it. Here, you'd think that someone could afford a clay chalice of some sort.
Just something that's a bit more, because I was also thinking in my head, like, man, did they put it in there hot? Because if you put that in there hot, that's not good. Like you're just leaching all the plastic.
Generally not, just FYI.
Yeah, no, I know. Because I sussed it out afterwards. It's like, the guy who helped organise it, I'm like, bro, what was the story with that plastic bottle? Because I went from being like, this is great, this could really be, and I'm like, what is that? I just dropped right out of it. But then I just thought to myself, well, this thing's this plant's super intelligent. I can drop my own. It knows what to do with the plastic anyway. So
yeah, man.
But I was a little bit disappointed. So I got past that, and then it got time to do the first serve of the medicine, and I was first up, had no idea what to do. I'm like, wish somebody else could have gone. But anyway, I just went with it. It was all fine. It was all good. Take the medicine, goes around the circle. And then,
How'd it taste?
oh, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mind. It was kind of like this. It's like
Okay. Cool.
like an earthy
bitter treat.
Yeah. It was totally fine. So anyway, this is where the journey really begins, I guess, because this is where I start to. Oh, first of all, actually, I should say, the facilitator said that this particular acacia, it's not really about journeying in your, going off into other.
Body.
It's actually primarily a physical detox. This particular one, and I thought, well, that's great because primarily it's stomach and liver, and those are my two major organs that I'm in I need to detox the most.
Okay.
Obviously, it does blood, it does muscles and that as well, but primarily stomach, liver. So as he's explaining that, I'm just thinking, well, I've come to the right place. I knew that all these signs were that I've come to the right place.
Yep.
And then the plastic bottle came out. Yeah. But anyway, so I'm much more feeling that this is a real grounded experience, not one of those we're going to ride unicorns in the fifth dimension and come back enlightened and stuff. It wasn't like that. So it was really good. And then the medicine started to have its effect. I was already really tired. Even when I sat down in there waiting for things to start, I just started to meditate, and I was kind of like, geez, I could actually fall asleep. So the part that the facilitator I thought did amazingly well was when he started to play the music. So he played a bit himself. He sung. He also played tunes that he'd amassed from other parts of the world that use acacia, because apparently it started in Australia, followed song lines to other countries, and they use acacia in other countries around the world, and they're on the song lines that carry through the world.
Cool.
And he said to us, when you hear the music, it's not music. You don't listen to it like you're listening to music. It's something different. Like it is music, but you're not, this is a song. It's not like music, listening to music. And as he started to play, that really made a lot of sense, because he was a brilliant, I'll call it musician. It's not quite a musician, but his voice, the quality of his voice, the way he played the guitar.
Or a transmitter.
It was a transmitter for sure. But it was also, because I'm a musician, I was like, he's actually really good. Like part of it was because he was playing something super simple, just on one string. But as he's singing over the top, it's in a completely different time signature. I could hear the difference and stuff. Right. And I'm like, this guy's actually a great player. He really is. And his voice, the quality, like
cool,
big surprise, but also like very beautiful. And then he would play music from other parts of the world, and literally it didn't sound good. Like, yeah, like two elders like barking at each other kind of thing. You're like, that's not music, but it is. It's doing something. And here's the really interesting part is that as he was playing, I got to the stage where I thought, oh, this is what it's like where you start to feel sick and you might have to throw up. But I was semi-controlling it because I can, I've got pretty good control of my faculties. I won't just spew. If I want to repress it, it'll stay down the whole time. But I was like, I'm not here to control stuff. I'm here to experience.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, I was just feeling it in my belly. I'm like, I actually think I could throw up. As he starts journeying with his voice and his guitar, what it felt like was it was pushing the medicine down in my body. And what it literally felt like to me was that music was directing the medicine through song lines in my own body. And when I knew it was really true was when he stopped playing for about 5 minutes to say, all right, if it hasn't had an effect yet, it's time to take another small dose to make sure you go into the point where it's doing something. I knew it was doing something, so I didn't need to. Only about 4 people out of the 13 odd that we had did a second dose. The rest of us were cool. But as he wasn't playing, it started to come up. And I'm like, I think I got to spew. And he starts playing and it starts weaving it back down through my body. And I was like, this is amazing. Cool. Like it's actually directing this medicine through my body's meridians and song lines. And it was great. So from then on, I lost track of time. It was just I was very lucid though. Like it's not like you're off.
So not psychedelic.
Well, for some people it was. Apparently they were seeing fractals and all this other stuff. It wasn't for me. I was just, I was very,
you're on the cleanse train.
I'm very mentally strong though. Like even when I've been blind drunk at times, as in to the point of passing out, I've still been some element of me can't let go. And that's the exact reason I wanted to go and have the experience of doing plant medicine, because that's part of me I need to.
Helps the opening,
There's part of me that still can hold on and I can control anything with my mind, which is obviously a very good quality in some parts of life, but in other parts of life, that's like you're just holding you back still.
Yeah.
So that was still present, but I was aware of it, and then after about an hour, I got up and threw up. Really easy spew, because I've had some horrible ones lately where I've had, when I spew, it's generally pretty violent and like really sickening and like horrible for the body. Like it's
doing a lot of liver cleansing.
Well, yeah, I've just had some,
general?
just in general, and I usually have to stick my fingers down my throat. So anyway, I just spewed except for that it came through the nose, which wasn't nice, but I spewed into the bucket a couple of times and I was good. And then I went to wash the bucket out and I was like, oh, maybe I'll just stick my hands down my throat and get the rest up. And I was thinking, no, that's you trying to force it. And then I didn't need to, and it was great. And I just went back to my spot, chilled out, fell asleep a bit.
Nice.
I wasn't really journeying the way I expected, but I did think maybe it was because I was so tired. Like I nearly fell asleep meditating.
Well, I can't speak for Acacia, but I've had an experience with ayahuasca, and I've had quite a few ayahuasca ceremonies, but one in particular when I was incredibly tired, and it felt like the spirit of the plant was like, oh, he's wrecked, and just no psychedelic patterns really. It was just like a very physical experience.
Well, I was definitely dreaming and having visions, but I have a lot of visions anyway. But it was in relation to the music that was going on. I mean, I was I would call it stoned. I'd say I was kind of stoned, which I actually don't like. Like I hate weed. Every time I've tried it in whichever way, whether I've smoked it, eaten it, used oil or whatever, I don't like it. It's not a plant that I gel with. Same. Because I'm usually very high functioning and quite, I don't know, just lucid and stuff. And if I have weed, it's like I'm put into a bubble and I just go, this is boring now. Like I'm in a bubble. I'm like, how do I get out? Can I just go to sleep and sleep this off? I hate it. Like I really don't like weed. And it kind of had a bit of a stoned effect on me. Not in the...
But you enjoyed it.
I didn't... Yeah. It was... Anyway, the overall experience was that it was not revelatory in any way. It was whatever happened very subtly, but I have noticed a residual effect that is very, very subtle, but still it's there. And so I think the overall effect was positive. Would I do it again? I don't think so, because I got invited to go and do another one out at a place where the elders actually are. And the reasons I don't feel called, I would, except for a couple of things. One is the price. Apparently what we paid was not that much compared to what a ceremony usually is. We paid, I think, $270. And somebody's told me that you can pay like $800 for a ceremony and stuff.
270s, like that's in the realm of like family community-based ceremonies, which is still ridiculous, but like...
Well, the only reason it's ridiculous to me is because there was 13 or 14 people, and so like they're clearing $3,500 or something, and I'm kind of like why? I don't quite get why. Unless it's going straight back to supporting Indigenous, I'm happy to do that. Yeah. But at the same time, like the guy was supposed to come back at 7 a.m. to do a closing and share a bit of food, but just kind of close it off, and he just kind of like he was over sleeping in his car somewhere and just didn't turn up. I'm kind of like it's a little bit like I don't know. There's just parts of it. I'm like the plastic bottle that like not turning back up and not really closing it off and stuff. I'm like, I know I just come from a different background where I'm a bit more like things have to be precise and there's all these, should follow a certain thing. So that's my own judgment on it. But I just kind of don't feel to pay that much again to go and I don't know, especially when it was, I will, when it's the right calling again, do that plant again. Because I want to do it again when I'm not as tired. My preconceived idea of it was we were all going to be sitting around. It was called a meditation. I thought we were actually going to be sitting, meditating collectively, obviously individually journeying, but everyone was just kind of like laying down on mattresses and stuff. So it was not what I had thought it would be. And I would like to be a bit more present rather than, I think I was very passive with it. Because I went in with when I say I expected this, I didn't have expectations. I let go of what it should be, but still I thought I would be more involved in the process of it rather than just kind of passing out and forgetting actually half of what happened. And which doesn't matter because it's all in the unconscious, it's all in the body anyway. But at the same time, I do want to experience it again in a more lucid state and not passed out, and actually meditating and actually present the whole time to really feel what's going on. And other people there did have a revelatory experience. So this is the thing. This is what, I think we both said last time. It's going to be different for, like, I've never felt called to it, but I have given it to people and it's changed their life. Like literally they have changed the path of their awareness of their self, made their life so much better. And I was just very interested to have the experience for myself. It was pretty much how I thought it might be without trying to put expectations on it, based on my observations of what I've seen in people where I've perceived their changes to be their perception versus a real change, and what it's done physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It pretty much was what I had anticipated, which it sounds so like wrong to say, but it's happened so many times where before I ever broke a bone, before I ever had somebody around me die that was close to me, before I ever I kind of already had the experience, because for some reason, well, actually I know the reason because people have told me about my constitution, that one of the reasons I don't feel much personally, to rephrase that, I don't feel much personally. I'm not tapped into my emotions, but I very, very easily feel other people's. So I can easily feel what's going on with somebody else way better than I can feel what's going on with me. So I guess having seen or been around or heard or whatever, somebody break a bone, somebody lose somebody have a car crash. Every time that happened to me, I'd already been through the experience, and it was pretty much no different to how I had thought it would be. Like, the experiment people did where they got basketballers and they had one group practice free throws, multiple times a week. And then they had another group not practice on the court, but visualize free throwing, and they pretty much perform the same. And so there is that element, like that's scientifically you can show that, but it's always been the case where based on my observation of something and feeling into it, my experience of then having it has been basically exactly aligned with how I had envisaged it. And so the plant medicine was met my kind of fell in line with that as well. But overall, nothing like revelatory to report. Definitely was a positive experience overall, especially in being able to lose some of my own judgment about even some of the people that were there. Because I would prefer to do it with maybe 2-3 people max. The shaman, and then a very small, tight group of all aligned in the same thing, not like random people going through random traumas and not people that I would ordinarily associate with just in general. So
I feel you.
Yeah,
that's a big worry with ceremonies that go on around here, and even overseas. Like, you just pay 10 grand and then you get off a plane and you're in a room and they're like, hey, so everybody sit down, what's your name? You're going to be tripping balls with all these people for a month, like 8 ceremonies, like, and someone stands up and they're like, hi, I'm possessed. And it's pretty wild. A woman actually was possessed by an entity when I went to the jungle, and we had to watch her slowly have it extracted over 7 ceremonies. It was pretty hectic.
Wow. Yeah, that would put me off, because I'm just one of those people that I'm not very social. Like, I don't go to parties. I don't like hanging around people that much. If I go to a restaurant, I'm always distracted by things, too much noise, too much stimulus, too many people, too many conflicting energies. And I don't like it. I go home drained, can't wait to get home and sit quietly. So when you add that kind of sensitivity into that environment of people, just like, who knows what, is they going to get up and try to stab somebody, or I would, if I was like that in the jungle somewhere, that's why I'd never do it. I'd always be on guard. There'd be part of me that could not let go, because I would be able to feel some of the instability, and my being would know it's not safe, so I couldn't let go at all. I'd be holding on very tightly to just keeping one eye open. Like, that guy could spaz out and do something crazy. And I would definitely like to do it again with an elder under the stars, not in a room, because we were in a room, right? I don't want to be in a room to do that again.
It's got to be in nature.
I want to be in nature. I want to be surrounded by only people that I are of my choosing. And yes, you could say that's trying to control the environment, but it's more so that I can be in a place where I absolutely feel trust and can just let go. and
Yeah.
and to be more lucid, not tired at the end of the day, and whatever. And yeah, those things combined, would love to do it again with that particular plant as well. And I'm still not called to do ayahuasca or anything yet. I'll never say never, but I'd like to do the acacia again, based in that set of circumstances.
Cool. Yeah, I think in nature, and my journey has always led me to do things like that alone as well. Like I always have a strong calling to be alone, like to take strong doses of mushrooms in nature alone.
Oh, but not like acacia or ayahuasca. I thought you had to have somebody facilitating that.
Well, it's incredibly for master plants like that, especially the ones that are using like a DMT signal, definitely, because you can open yourself up to entities. And I've actually had an experience of that happen to me smoking changa, if you've heard of that, which is like basically a DMT cigarette, but it's like soaked in it. So you get a herb and you soak it in a DMT liquid. And I'll quickly tell that story because it's pretty interesting. So I was with an ex-girlfriend, and God bless her, I actually believe that the entity was in that arena because she was someone that was kind of susceptible to them being around. And anyway, that's another story. But so we smoked the DMT. I immediately, have you heard much about DMT before?
Yeah, heaps.
So it's just like an absolute ejection from the physical realm very rapidly. It's into the like holographic, fractal, whatever you want to call it, universe, like where the fabric of atomic reality is kind of made visual to you and you're kind of swimming around in it. It's ridiculous. It can be healing if you're approaching it in the right way, but it's something that I like express so much caution to anyone that thinks about it or brings it up around me, especially because of this experience. So we smoked it, entered the state. I was enjoying myself I was in an Alex Gray artwork, you know, basically just like exploding into this incomprehensibly beautiful, all-encompassing matrix of imagery and sound. And then all of a sudden, it felt as if the fabric of all of it, whatever it was itself, was trying to pop me, so to speak. It was like, kind of like seeing that there was a Sam, like a thing that was separate from it. And it was like, oh, look, there's an ego. We've got to go destroy it so that it can become one with all of us. As if it was just something in the body that needed to be cleansed, you know? And so it started like kind of putting pressure on me and kind of coming down to pop me and kill me essentially. And I turned into a fighter and I just like resisted the hell out of it. I was like, no, like I didn't make a sound, but it felt like I was screaming. Like I was like, no, like just didn't want to die. My ego needed to persevere. And there was a moment where it kind of like realized that I wasn't keen to let go. And so it just like lifted off gracefully. And in that moment, something terrifying happened. It was as if like a gap opened up in between like my chakra systems at the crown, and something just slipped in, and I felt it. It was a physical sensation. It was like into the body. And the experience that I had at that point was because these bodies are just vessels for consciousness, right? And so it, as an aspect of consciousness, got in and kind of hijacked my body for a moment. And so my body and the emotions reacted to its awareness, because its awareness was so stoked that it got into a body. It was like, oh my God, I got into a human body. And it was like overcome with joy, and like it was like enthralled. And I started acting it out with my body, and I could feel it and see it through my eyes, but it was as a result of this other entity. And then luckily I was aware enough to witness it and then just kind of freak out and command it out of my body, which is really interesting. Maybe we can have a chat about that, because that's quite strongly tied into Christian theology, like the commandment of the word, like your word, especially when you're using it in like a spiritual way, protects you. And it all has to do with awareness. Like you have to be of a certain awareness to guard yourself. But as soon as I commanded it out of my body, it just went shoof, and I felt it leave, and my body firewalled. And it was like Spider-Man sprayed a web on my third eye, because I was still in the middle of the DMT experience. But even if I closed my eyes, there was no psychedelic fractals or patterns. It was like my body acted like a computer and firewalled and shut down, like it knew that something happened. It was terrifying. And I was just like laying there shaking for a long time. Just quickly, I told this story just coincidentally to another friend who came over for dinner the other night, and they're very deep in the yogic tradition. And they shared a specific mantra that people use to protect themselves from entities. And they said it in Hindi, obviously. And I said to them that I feel like all that is needed is awareness, because if you're aware, you can command and you can move your way around from anything. Like, that's all you need. Awareness is your protection. You don't need a mantra. And then they said that actually the mantra says that your awareness is your protection in a way. But mantras are just anchors. Like, we just use them. They're reminders, like, to condition our brain and to elevate in awareness. So yeah, so long story short, but don't recommend people do DMT alone.
So I've got some questions. So I agree. There's a lot of, one of the reasons I don't like the way people, it's not that I don't like plant medicines. I don't like the way, especially around here, people use them and do them. They go there continually trying to find something, and they do too much. And I don't think people realize that as you lose a level of groundedness and awareness of things, you do open yourself up. And especially the way some of them are done, because they're run by people who are in the dark side of things. That's what it's for. It's A, energy harvesting, and B, opening yourself up for entities and stuff to whatever.
Absolutely.
And so that's part of it. The DMT side, my understanding is that it's a short-lived thing. So from friends that have done quite a bit of it, if you smoke it, it's about a 15-minute hit, and then you come out of it. Is that right or not?
Even quite a bit shorter.
Oh, yeah. Does it feel
it's
like a lifetime?
The arch might be 15 minutes, but like the peak and the trough is like, can be even like 5 minutes. It can be very brief.
So in that time that you've experienced this, of being amongst this fractal reality and then something coming into you and you having to cast it out, that'll happen within a short time frame.
Relatively, but I didn't break through, which is a phrase used to describe when you have enough where you actually do completely just merge with the field of consciousness and leave the body, so to speak. People often refer to it as blasting through or breaking through or whatever. Yeah, right. And that's why I got caught in a tricky situation, and that's how the entity got into me, because I didn't make it all the way. I kind of opened up the door and went whee, and then fell back down. You know what I mean? So and it kind of came back in with me.
All right. So yeah, because one of the things that I've always heard people talk about is, you know, these fractal realities and whatever. And I'm just kind of thinking, well, the brain, though, we make DMT. That's the thing. Like, it's not just in plants. Like green grass in the garden's full of it. Yep. It's just not in a bioavailable form.
It's easy to find it in things that doesn't have it then. I mean, it's easy to talk about things that don't have it. Yeah. Because there's like hardly anything on the planet that doesn't have it.
So it's everywhere. And I just think you said a good quote last time. You said, beware unearned wisdom. I like that, because it's not, I've never seen anyone have the ability to actually fast track something. And, did I give the musical instrument analogy last time? Can't remember.
Maybe not.
It's just, okay, so let's say somebody's done some 5-minute trip on DMT, which is it organic, by the way? When you get it out of
you can plant. Have it from, well, you need to do a certain type of chemical solvent process.
So that's the thing, is that my understanding of it, again, I'm not an expert on that stuff, but my understanding is that if you have it through ayahuasca, for example, it's a organic kind. But if you smoke it, it's not an organic kind. So immediately it can't be the real thing. It's like a version of, or
And quick note, shamans say never do that. Like traditional shamans say, you're taking the spirit and the mind of the plant out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
So
bad news basically.
And so when, let's say somebody said, well, I just, shot off to some other place and I now know something, I'm like, do you though? Because one of the things I've always said to people is that if you think you can just download information, which we do, but the way people talk about it, like they're just trying to bypass the actual learning of something, I'm like, well, you go and do that, not only in the plant medicine realm, but the new agey realm of come and do my quantum learning and you'll learn everything in like an hour. You can just instantly know stuff and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but those words like quantum, meta, theta, they're just words. And if you can pick up an instrument you've never played and then do your quantum meta theta or do your DMT smoking and then play that instrument to a high level, then I'll believe you. Then I'll sign up for your course and pay you $5,000 to do your quantum whatever course. But if you can't do that, then I don't believe you, because I think you'll find that you will suck hard for 2 or 3 years at that instrument because there's no shortcutting something that is going to be spoken or created or played into reality. I just don't, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying I haven't seen it, especially from people selling courses and modalities and ceremonies and stuff under those pretenses, and I'm not seeing any actual, reality expression of it.
Yep.
And you kind of hinted at something before, which is something that I like to share with people is going through the motions can help you to anchor, because you mentioned that the mantra was an anchor, but you didn't need it because it's a state of being or it's something that was already there, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if I want to give gratitude for the tea, I don't have to do this.
Yep.
And say something or go through the motions of something. Gratitude's a state of being. Like right now, I just felt gratitude, and you probably can't tell, but I can. And then if I want to feel anger, there I just did it. I don't have to go like, I don't have to point at it or say something. It's something internal already.
Absolutely.
So these things are all simply ways that, and then the thing is it's not it. This isn't gratitude. Gratitude is what's in here, and hence, the DMT, the trips to seeing things, that's just a sign of, but it's not it. Yep. And this topic is actually, because this is one of the things I wanted to bring up, is this thingy. A lot of people on Instagram and that, they're like, why have you got a pedo symbol?
Yeah, I saw those
on
comments.
Your thing. So explain yourself, Sam. Why have you got a pedophile symbol above your...
I'm a pedo, so...
My discernment is so off.
I saw those comments and I laughed because I just watched the Jim Brewer comedy special. Don't know if you've seen it, but
somebody had to say it.
Yeah, that's it. So good. And he was talking about how people get offended by everything and how they're like tight asses, and he was just joking by I feel like in the conspiracy realm there's just that same kind of crowd, and no offense, I'm just making an observation. I think that. And it kind of goes like the Schwartz sticker as well. Like that was like a symbol of like.
Well, I brought that up in the comments.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I said. Well, okay. So let me just ask.
Well, first of all, let me just say this is a yin yang symbol.
Yeah.
Painted by a friend of mine who's a beautiful artist in New Zealand, and the spiral for me also resembles this beautiful Zen kind of notion of the way out is in, and it's like. We're trying to search for gold outside of ourselves through money and capital and land and superficialities, friendships and that aren't real and stuff like that. Whereas all we're really trying to do is find the gold within us, and we've just become lost, And that's why there's this endless hungry ghost, like Gabor Mate says, this endless thirst and this destruction that's as a result of that, of ourselves and the ecology of the planet and each other and our communities. And the spiral for me represents something very beautiful. It's a coming home. And the yin yang at the center is resembling that when we make it back inward, we realize our true nature, which is unity, expressed temporarily as duality in this reality. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, but, people can look at if people are going to look at things and get triggered, and like that opens up a can of worms of emotions and stuff for them, like I just recommend like trying to become a bit more, what's that Buddhist word?
Smart.
Smart. Anyway, it's like non-judgmental, basically. If it comes to me, I'll share it. But I think there's a good lesson in there for people that are seeing things and getting triggered by stuff like that. It's like, and if you're on track in helping us co-create the reality that we want to live in, like we need to let that shit go. Like if there's a context where it's actually being used as a pedophile symbol and it's evident, like bring it up, you know. But like Tom, Barnett and Sam talking about tea ceremony in a room, yeah, maybe not as important.
Okay, so this is... did you know that's a pedophile symbol?
Well, I know that the spiral and the triangle, and there's like at least 12 symbols that are commonly associated.
Yeah, right. Okay, so one of the things, so what I want to do is just have a little bit of a look at how people's minds are working, and just because there's a great lesson in this. And this is a great example also of taking something negative or heavy and turn it into a positive, transmute something. So see some alchemy in action. I actually had no idea. So for me, when I see that, people are like, oh, good symbology. I'm like, what am I missing? Because I see the yin yang, and spirals to me always represented insight. And I had maybe that's a Taoist symbol. I have no idea. One of the reasons I'm not super keen on symbology is because of how things have been lost and also inverted, perverted and whatever. I brought up the example of a swastika where the original version or meaning of it was something hugely positive and powerful. And then the dark side of things take that and invert it, which then disempowers the people who take that offer, because it's literally an offer. If I say to you, Sam, that's a pedo symbol, and you go, ugh, I gave you an offer and you just accepted it, and the one that made the reality was you. Exactly. Not the symbol and not me.
100%.
You made that the reality. Yeah, not you know that, but anyone that takes it that way.
Yeah.
So like you said, there's a context where if that is known to be a pedophile symbol and that's the accepted reality, then sure. And people are going to me, they said, well, not people, just maybe one person was like, you should know that. How do you not know that? And I'm like, well, because I don't fish my head around in people's fucking dirty underwear. Like, I don't know that, because why would I? I just, there's a lot of things I don't know about a lot of things. And usually it's the sordid sort of stuff. Like, I don't particularly want to spend my time finding out what all of the most evil things in the world. I'm quite aware of the balance of good and evil in the world. And I'm pretty sure my awareness is good enough to be able to navigate this world. But it's also then accepting that as reality is, to me, a weakness. That's a hugely disempowering place to be, to accept that is a reality, because it's not a reality. Yeah. And the analogy that I give is, imagine you go to, say, the lighthouse and there's a cliff there, right? And so then someone could erect a sign that says, danger, cliff. And what people are doing is taking that sign and thinking it's the cliff. Because it's like the expression, the finger pointing away to the moon. Like, the finger's not the moon. Yeah. No sign, no symbol or anything is the thing. It's simply pointing to something. It's a guide. It's a way to look towards something. And yes, it's probably good to have the awareness, because apparently that's used a lot in Disney, and for example, and it's like their way of highlighting what they're doing. So to have that awareness, I guess, is positive, but to then go beyond that and be disempowered by it, like, oh, that's evil and that's bad.
I'll never use a spiral in my life.
Yeah.
I'm going to avoid spirals.
Exactly. And that's the main point, is that the original meaning of, let's say, that is probably something very, very powerful, like this. Yeah. Powerful. This, these, they're all super powerful. Which is why
they use them.
Exactly. And then what they did was that they took those and go, we don't want people to know how powerful they are. We don't want people doing this and tapping into things through the true meaning of the symbology. So we're going to turn it into 666 is the devil. And this is the devil. And that's this, and that's pedo, and that's this. And so people go, ugh. Accepting the offer, making the agreement, making it a reality, and therefore never finding the symbology that can make them, help them realize their true power, which is far greater than any of these, Illuminati. Even the word illuminate, I love that word. And people go, don't say illuminate. I'm like, why? That's powerful. Like, stop letting them, because what people are doing is agreeing that they own the word. That's the meaning. I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I illuminate myself all the time because I'm not going to accept that they can take that and make it theirs. It's like I say things are gay all the time because I don't accept disempowered, weak people claiming a word. Oh, you can't use that. It's offensive. It's like, that's not the original meaning of the word, for starters.
Yeah.
You can't claim it. Like, how entitled is that, claiming a word and then you can't use it?
Yeah, it's pretty...
It doesn't even mean
dodgy.
homosexual, for example. That's
Yeah.
not what it means. So, and to therefore lower yourself to that vibration, for example, I think it's a huge disservice to yourself, to true meaning of anything, to other people who think it's offensive. I think it's a disservice to them to stop using words. Like Owen Benjamin says nigger 50 times every stream.
Yeah, I've seen it.
and gay and fuck and whatever else he says, and because he does a great job breaking those spells, and that's what it is. That when people say, why do you have a pedo symbol, that's a spell, and they're under the spell.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you could just break through that, you might find, and I don't know what it is, but I'm assuming the original meaning of that, like 666, 333, like mudras done with the fingers.
Yeah.
If you could find the original meaning, you would find some way. It
To
is still just a
utilize it
sign,
yeah.
but back to the power that you are, which has been stripped of this realm. There's the bastardization of masculine, feminine. That's all they ever needed to attack, and people will never find themselves. So we go around just in this entity world, never ever tapping back into what we are, and they're winning. So whenever people accuse anyone or anything of using a sign, or how do you not know, or that's evil, it's like, well, congratulations. You're giving them the power.
Yeah.
Because you're not taking it for yourself. I actually wrote, I'll read it out.
Equanimity is the word I was trying to think of before.
Equanimity, that's a great word. It's literally 11:11. It's the
Cool.
right time to, well, you can comment on what I just said, and then if you want, and then I'll read out what I just posted.
Do you mind if I pour some more tea?
Go for it. Oh, I'll do it. Yeah.
I'm a tea fiend,
service.
sorry.
Yeah, no, me too. I could probably drink. I'm one of those people that if we go to tea at the space, I'm like, man, you didn't serve enough bottles.
Got a question for you then on that. Do you have any idea in TCM or just in general if there's anything wrong with doing 12 tea ceremonies a day for your constitution, like just hot water constantly?
Yes and no. If you're in balance, you can't. When you have something pure in nature, so I'll just use honey as the example. Raw honey is literally just an enzyme. It's all enzymes. It's very sweet, but the sweetness converts to enzymes in the body. If you heat it up, you turn it into crack. It's pure sugar, but in its natural state. So what happens is if somebody's very enzyme deficient, they could probably take 5-6 tablespoons of honey a day, and they're not overdoing it. But as your enzyme stores come up, you'll start to feel sick off 3 or 4 teaspoons because your body is in relation, your nature is in harmony with the nature, and you can't, generally speaking, unless you're really not connected to yourself, overdo something that's natural and good for you in that way. Now, there's obviously, there's times when you can argue against that. I'm just saying as a general concept, honey is a great example. I would feel physically ill if I ate 6 tablespoons of raw honey. I don't know that because I've tried it. Because I have been at a point where I could eat that. I would add it to everything, all my smoothies, just eat it off the spoon, add it in because I needed it because I was so enzyme deficient coming off of years of taking supplements and having a lot of cooked food and all that sort of stuff. And as my enzyme stores came up and my health started coming back, honey, well, I still love it. I had to take less and less and less and less because if I had tried to take that amount, I would feel physically ill. So to answer your question then with this, because it's such a pure, but this is the highest quality water I can get. Yeah. It's heated naturally, not electronically. It's, it's hundreds of year old worth of wisdom in the plant. I think you'll get to the stage, which I do, I call it tea belly. Once I've had, I know when I've had enough because I get tea belly. And it's my belly going, you're a bit full of water there, buddy. You're going to have to not have too much. But from a TCM perspective, yes, but generally speaking, these types of teas are what you would call, in Ayurvedic medicine, you'd probably call them a tridosha, as in they're not too far in any constitutional space,
Okay.
But it is about listening to your body. Sometimes less is more. Sometimes more is more. But it will definitely get to a point where you'll have too much. But for the two of us, that's going to be different. For me, it's 6 bowls. For you, it's 12. Who knows? So yeah, moderation in all things, I think, would be another Buddhist thing. If you just drink it all the time, and also because it's an escape, like, oh no, my wife's angry with me, I should go on. No, I'll just sit and pour tea. And I should do some work. No, I'm just going to pour tea. It's like a cop out. Because yes, it's a nice thing to do. It's meditative, it's medicinal. But if you overdo it, then you're non-participating in life. So balance.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Did you want to comment on anything?
What was it that you just finished up speaking?
Just how it's so disempowering to accept an offer that a symbology is cool. And when it could be a complete inversion and taking away from the true power of what it really is.
Sweet as. I'll try and wrap that also in with the DMT thing, because I was just going to say earlier, there are lessons with DMT available, and I reckon that is, first of all, that we are immortal beings. That's like a lesson that comes through for most people. And also that the layer of language and the rational mind use of the layer of language in terms of understanding reality has nothing to do with actually understanding reality. It is a superficial trick that we play. Like if there was only 2 items in the universe, you'd put a word on them and you'd only be able to use those words to differentiate between the two. Those words aren't at all ever telling you what that thing is. We don't know what the hell anything is. People, if I point at grass and I'm like, what's that? Every single person pretty much on the planet will be like, that's grass. And I'll be like, what's grass? You know what I mean? And people, they'll trick themselves into thinking that they know that it's grass, but they actually have no idea what it is. And like a more true answer would be, it's one thing that's expressing itself as the universe in this moment, or something like that. But then you could keep boiling that down with that language. It's like, what's the universe? What's expressing, And I think that like an attachment and a triggering to that language realm and the symbolic realm is it's a trap on the cream layer of the bucket of milk. It's just the superficial layer. Like, we need to be going deeper. I think our work on this planet in this time is about penetrating the core of our true being and like getting underneath the layers of what have been used by the elitists, but by ourselves as these traps. So yeah.
Well, I also think, because I say this about the educational system, if I wanted to get an A in the educational system, I could go, cows have 4 legs, cows have 4 stomachs, cows are mammals, cows produce milk, and I'm right, and I'm getting an A. Yeah. And I'm going straight to the top of the class, but I know nothing about a cow. I don't know how to care for it. I don't know what it is. I don't know anything about a cow. I'm just describing stuff about it,
Yeah.
Like what you said about the grass. And that's the way that we are indoctrinated to think that we're intelligent and we know stuff, but we don't. We just literally don't. And I think even from what I said before as well, I don't want to say that it's never a good idea to bring something up. I mean, if that is a well-known symbol, I think it's good to bring it up, and I think you should. But you should bring it up in a question. Hey, did you know that that's actually used a lot by Disney? Just wondering why that's there. Is there a reason that?
Well, what is the intention you're using?
What is the intention? Yeah, because the intention is everything, right?
Exactly.
It's not the symbol, and so then it opens a discussion. It's like, well, is that? Because actually, I didn't know. That's why I wanted to ask you. Why? Explain yourself, Sam. and then through inviting discovery and inquisition, we can go, okay, well, is that? And then what is the original meaning? And then we can see if it's appropriate to use that, because it might not be. Or we can say, have you considered that it could be an inversion of something super powerful? Have you considered that? And it opens up invites inquiry, which is really powerful. Because again, like when we just start saying stuff, then we think we know when we don't. But when we ask questions, sometimes there is no answer, but the question itself is the answer. The art of questioning is what. So I just think that that's a super powerful thing to do. So I don't want to discourage people from going, what is that? Because people should ask.
For sure.
But to be able to find a higher place, not to like drag it down or to be like take that down. I can never watch your stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, if you can't listen, and I said this because somebody said it about Andy Kaufman. When I interviewed him, they go, oh, well, Amanda Vollman doesn't talk to him anymore because apparently he's got some stance on vaccines that I didn't know about. And I'm like, are you trying to tell me that through that whole interview, which was fucking gold, that there was nothing in there of value? Are you going to
just a big wall?
You agree with somebody 98%, but Sam wears blue shirts. Oh my God, I'm never listening to Sam. No. But Sam's talking blah, 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 blah. Like, as if nothing you say will have any, like, that's only comes. So that's why I wanted to read this out, because I also, do you know who Shervin is?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay. I didn't know who
he follows my Instagram.
Oh yeah, right. Okay. So I didn't know who he was. My friend started telling me about him, and then I'm kind of like, not really interested. And then she goes, he plays Tool all the time. And I'm like, really? And then she said, yeah, he even broke down Invincible. And I was like, if you, like this girl, if you can even remember the name of a song, I'm impressed. He must have made an impression, because you can tell me the name of the song, and most people wouldn't be able to do that. So now I'm really interested, right? What does he say about it? Why? So I start looking at some of his stuff. Well, no, I didn't actually. I just posted a photo of him.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Because she said she'd send me the video where he talks about Invincible, which is an amazing song, which I am going to do a breakdown of myself. So I was interested in what he had to say. And she couldn't find it. So I put the post out saying, does somebody know this guy? Does somebody know the video? Can you link me to the video? That was the only point of the post. Not who he is, not is he a shill, not is he egotistical. Nothing about that was the point of the post, but that's where people went with it, right? The point of the post was... Why are you posting
this guy?
The point of the post is, he did a video on a Tool song. I want to see it. That's the point of the post. No one even went near that element of the post, which was the whole point of it. So anyway, but then my friend sends me 3 of his clips, and he was talking about water, and I don't believe he knows much about water. She also sent a clip of him working out to Tool, and I'm like, that's an epic song, but his deadlift form was like, and I know girls that deadlift more than that in their warm up, and it's kind of like, not that that's, everyone does different things for different reasons, but I'm just going like, there's a lot that I actually don't really like already. Yep. So anyway, but the point is, I'd still like to talk to the guy, because I don't think that maybe he's using, apparently he uses aborted fetal cells in his supplements or something. I don't know whether that's true. It's just a lot of people are saying it. They've linked me to stuff. But I personally still want to talk to the guy, because there could still be some value there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if he's willing to talk, I'm the type kind of guy who can ask those questions and not make it accusatory. And I don't feel that we have to win. Like, what I'd like to do, I mean, I'd like to chat to you actually regularly, and we sort of have not agreed on some things, but I think it's good to not just go, yeah, man, you're so right, like the whole way through the conversation. I'd like to be like, I don't see it that way, Sam.
Yeah, of course.
I see it this way. And you can go, well, I don't see it that way. I see it this way.
Yeah.
And the point of doing a podcast is that people listen. Otherwise, we'd just be chatting without microphones, right? So there is an element of doing a podcast where we're bringing up concepts that other people can then glean something from, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have to win. Like, it's not about me being right, or this is Sam's C Connection podcast, so you have to be right.
I'm the king of the castle, mate.
Yeah.
Don't shit on me.
So that's not the point of it, because otherwise we'd have a chat privately. This is about being able to open up questions and inquisition and broaden everybody's horizons for ourselves, and us included, as we chat. So it's very disempowering, I think, for a listener to think that we can only talk about things that are going to validate their belief systems.
Oh, shit, yeah.
And like, your uncle might be an Illuminati Freemason or something. Like, disclosure, he's not. I don't know anything about I don't want anyone to run with that one. But at the same time, even if he was, why would that mean we can't have a conversation?
Yeah.
Why would that mean I can't even bring that up, for example?
Yeah.
And see what you do. It's not up to me to go and arrest the guy. It's up to the watcher and listener to go, Sam went quiet then.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not up to me to, like, you know what I mean? It's like people are so I wrote this.
That's why discourse, like the Greeks used discourse. Forgot what it's called. Probably everyone knows this. I just don't know what it's called. But the arena that they would come and speak publicly in, like a public podcast, basically. Yeah. And then everyone would have an opportunity to experience where someone is lacking or wrong, and everyone gets refined. It's a beautiful thing.
Exactly. Yep. I don't remember I think I don't remember what the term is either. Something like that. Or soapboxes or whatever. There's
Pantheon, or is that something completely different?
Well, Pantheon sounds like more of a marathon. I can't remember. We're just going to get all the words wrong. Because I am starting a podcast. I bought myself some stuff recently as well. I'm starting a podcast.
It's very good news.
Yeah, so I wrote a post that just said, be the author. It's just a graphic. So the extension of that is to become the authority, like I've spoken about a lot of times.
Is that a second kettle?
Yeah, just because that one's going to run out on the next bowl, I think.
But we
So I might as well pour it now. So I always say that authority comes from the word author.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with not being the author of your own reality is that you're allowing other people to author your reality. Hence, before, if somebody's worried about that sign, where's their authorship of their own life, their own reality? So they are no authority in their own life. They're letting somebody else cast a spell, somebody else author the meaning, the intention, because they're not doing it for themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I wrote, be the author and then become the authority. That's a huge concept I think would help people to start to internalize. Then I wrote, I'll be interviewing a variety of people soon. I won't necessarily know whether they're 100% legit before I speak to them, which you just don't. Like, I want to talk to Paul.
No one's got the time for that anyway.
That's the thing. I don't actually follow most of these people. I have no idea who they are. But I want to talk to people who are going to be interesting, where we can pick apart something. Or there's no one that I don't think we can all learn from. Like I learn from everybody I talk to.
Right on.
So it said, it would appear that some people need validation and hand-holding. They don't trust their own judgment. No one shares truth. This is another topic which we can talk about too. But you can glean your own truth from anyone. Only the disempowered fear a deceiver. Because if like, let's say this guy is a deceiver of some kind, it doesn't bother me. I don't care. Like he's just, for people to need like a barrier between them and a deceiver, I just think it's really disempowering.
It's like the same thing as what the left and the brainwashed are calling for, just in another realm. Censorship and protection and
Yep. Yeah, you can't say, oh, the mainstream media sucks or Facebook sucks because they're censoring me, and then in the same breath wanting us to censor. Oh, you can't talk about that guy. You can't interview that guy.
Yeah.
You should
Put
censor
those
him.
symbols on the wall.
Yeah, it's like, it's like if you don't want censorship, you don't want censorship. Full stop. It's not like you can't pick and choose what's censored and what's not.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned the Andy thing, and then I just said it's scary for some, but I'm not your answer, and neither is any guest that I'll have. Be willing to learn to discern and be willing to be open. I'm not authoring your life, and neither is my next guest. It's you. Become the authority in your own life and never fear who might be an agent, shill, Peter, Jesuit, Illuminati, or whatever. Be concerned with you. So that was the last thing. I just write, too many people are concerned with other people and other things, and it's like it's because you don't know how to deal with yourself yet. So if you start being more concerned with you, you won't start fearing other people and their symbols and whatever, because they don't rule you anymore.
Absolutely.
Because then you're the one authoring your own life, not somebody else. It's such a powerful concept. And
mate, I think it's the ultimate concept, because it's like if people are leaning into truly trying to be the author of their own life, they're starting to peel back and let go of and dissolve all the bullshit that's kind of helping to co-create the shit that we're in right now. So that's ultimate empowerment, ultimate freedom, to actually feel like we're in a reality that you can be free to do and be who you want to be, create what you want to create. Yeah, it's hard.
Well, people, I think they're scared of it. It's the same reason people self-sabotage. Like most people fear success more than they fear failure, because they're like, what do I do with it? Well, I drop the ball if I get it. Like a lot of people sabotage because they actually don't want freedom. They don't want success. They don't want the perfect wife or woman, or whatever. People self-sabotage all the time. And I mean, freedom's one of the key things that I just keep hearing people talk about, and then they're like, yeah, let's vote it in, or
let's vote it in.
Let's go to protest for it. I'm like, why are you begging someone else for
freedom?
Yeah. So it's these concepts that people talk about. When I just observe things, I'm like, you don't want it. I can tell you don't want it because you don't know what it is or what to do with it, and you're scared of having it, because then you're fully responsible, right? So if you're authoring your own story, the reasons people might not want to do that is they're like, well, what if it's a bad story? What if I get it wrong? What if I start it, get halfway through, I don't know how to finish it? Like imagine it's a book that you're writing. What if the characters and people don't like the characters or my character?
Yeah.
All these things of what could go wrong with it. So they're actually
Exactly,
scared to do it, right? And that's one of the reasons I think people don't author they don't create fully or expressively
But don't you think it's safe to say that like truly though, everyone does want that deep down at the core?
Yep.
But it's just that as you just started to rattle off all the fears, there's these programs that have become implanted along the way in the software of the being that's blocking them from doing it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep. At the core, that's the difference between a, a reptile or an entity or whatever you want to call them. That's
machine.
Between them or an NPC and people like us is that they do feel it. And I don't doubt, even the people out there that, other people think are our enemies or whatever, they're not bad people. Like those people wearing masks and getting jabbed, I'm the first to say a lot of them are if you ask them, they'll give you the shirt off their back. They'll help you move a trailer. They'll like look after your kids.
Obviously.
They're not bad people. Like most people aren't bad people. We have our patterns. We have our traumas that often get in the way from what you just said. That core being is beautiful and it wants to be free. It wants to author its own story. But we have so many of these layers in between, which is like, just stops us doing it. And it prevents us being good to each other. And, oh, you wearing a mask, you idiot. Or, all these ways we fight each other.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm not against weed, mushrooms, ayahuasca, anything, because all of those things can help burn through or at least like penetrate so you can peer past that level. And then this one and then this one.
Yeah.
And eventually we get down to we can clear this stuff out where we're like, we are emanating from that place that does genuinely want to be free, does want to be good to people, does want to connect to something higher and realize our power here and not get worried about somebody's podcast with a spiral on it.
Yeah. I think it comes a lot when that clearing happens. I'm finding now that joy is something that kind of is a lot more prominent in my life. I'd like to hear also how you feel about that, because I feel like that could be a good measure of where you're at also, perhaps, maybe not.
Joy?
Yeah. Although, you know what, like when you were talking earlier about your not being able to let go all the time, like what came through to me in that moment was like, you're like, you have no integrated full archetype. Have you looked into tarot cards?
Nah.
It's like it's not a tarot card actually. This is actually one that Osho made, but I think maybe they're called tarot or people call them tarot. But anyway, it's like, and
what archetype are you? Is it that kind of one?
No, it's kind of like there's like all of these archetypes and Carl Jung talks about it as well. Like it's just like categories of behavior and states of being dependent on where you're at in your psychological development, and your spiritual emotional development. But the Fool is representative of like gaining so much beauty and joy from the moment by being completely out of touch with your like the masculine boundary and intellect. And like the picture of it on this particular card in the Osho deck is like this guy wandering off the edge of a cliff, like looking at a flower, and he's just like clearly like he's emanating like so much joy, like he's just in pure bliss. And obviously the image is illustrating that there needs to be a balance integrated. You can't live a life as a fool because you'll hurt yourself or you'll die or whatever, But there also is a light side to it, which is like, I need a little bit of that sometimes. Like I kind of want to have that, like that openness so that I can just be in the presence and the beauty of whatever it is that I'm in right now. Yeah. I can't remember why I was bringing up that joy thing.
Oh, okay. Well, you just said that, you're concentrating more on it or whatever, and you asked me if I think it's an important.
I'd like to know, so I'd like to know how you're going with like your higher vibe states in general in life. But I was just going to say quickly that I think that we're lacking that hugely in our culture and environment. Just like
that's what over the last probably year and a half, a lot of my live streams have been about. That is just remember the joy. Like for us to go through life not experiencing joy, they're winning. Like if we're going to protest and we're just going, oh, what are they going to kill us with next? And oh my God, some idiot's wearing a mask. It's like they're winning because that's an offer. That's an offer for you to not feel embodied, joyful. And that's what brings the vibration up, right? So they don't have to come at you and lock you in a cage and point a machine gun at you and piss on you and like demoralize you. They do that by very subtle ways because you do it to yourself. And that's the thing is when you accept that offer and form the agreement that life's horrible and we're going to get locked up and it's all about this and the establishment and the elite and oh my God, and you're so oppressed, where's your joy? You know? And one of the ways room
for it.
No, and so I've been saying to people a lot, like make sure you're still being creative because there's two things that they can't control or where they don't have, without going too deep into like the concept of archons and what have you. If you're there's an expression that if you're always on time, the archons always know where you're at and where you are because you're running on clock time, which is their kind of like
installation.
Yeah. So if you're spontaneous, they don't know. They can't tap you. If you're creative, they don't have that and they can't tap that either. Well, I mean, they can because they can pay you to be their minion, but those things keep it, and joy raises it to a place beyond where they are. So I've said, and I've seen other people say the same thing, where let's say there's pedophiles molesting kids right now in tunnels under this town, and we don't know where those tunnels are. We don't know where the kids are. If we're like, oh my God, this is all happening, and it's just that does not do you any favors. Therefore, it doesn't do the collective any favors. It doesn't do those kids any favors. It doesn't help anything. It actually drags everything down. However, if we go, look, I know that's going on and I'm going to make it my business and my duty to find them. But right now, because I don't have anything in my capacity to do that right now, I'm going to play some music and I'm going to create so joyfully.
Yeah.
Some people might say, I can't have fun. I can't have joy because I know some bad stuff's happening in the world or in Africa or something, right? And it's like, but you can help them by being your best self.
Yeah.
That reality, that part of consciousness they're experiencing is theirs to experience. And if you're engaged in them and getting out of your own lane to engage in how shit their life is, then you're dishonoring your own path that you're here to experience this. Yeah. We have a beautiful environment. We do have freedom here. We have the ability to go and get a guitar, whether you can afford to buy it or you can borrow it or you can at least go and play one, for example. Yeah. And if you don't do that, you're not honoring that part. And therefore, because you're dragging yourself down to some reality that's not yours, you're actually further dragging down that vibration of what's going on.
Yep.
Whereas if you can be this and to experience this and the joy, you raise yourself, you raise what's around you, and by ways that people might not get, you're actually doing them a favor too.
Big time. And really important thing that just dropped in, if you believe in creator, how do you give thanks to creator? You don't, as you were saying before, you don't go like this and you say thanks. That doesn't do anything. You say thanks by being truly grateful, by being high vibrational. Uh-huh. That's your thanks. Mm-hmm. That's how we give thanks. And that's why we say grace. And that's when we close the circles that I run, when I feed the people for the first time after 4 days, when everyone's sitting there like tongues hanging out of their mouth, like about to start eating their own tongue. And I give them the plates of food and there's just a moment like where we say grace in it. Mm-hmm. We say grace by me saying we've forgotten what it means to say grace. And that's all I say. And then I'm like, enjoy your food, you know? And it's just that embodied experience immediately of what grace actually, of what gratitude and what saying grace actually means. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I first learnt that, I was like, holy shit, like everything just fell into place. I was like, I've been doing this so wrong for a long time, especially thinking about praying, you know, like, because I went atheist for a while and I was like, these fucking idiots think that they just like ask for things through God or through Jesus to God or whatever. It's like, that's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
it's ridiculous too.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, that joy aspect is huge, and I'm big on that too. We're picking myself up or catching myself if I'm not, because I'm too in my head and I'm too focused on the future and what I'm creating and what I've got to work towards, and not having enough time for joy. But I definitely have a lot. So nature in general is just a joyous thing for me. Especially just birds. Like even if I just momentarily catch a black cockatoo and I hear it and I can glimpse it, I'm just like, oh, there's such joy in that for me, even if it's for 5 seconds. Yeah. Then the ocean is a big part of it. Surfing is a big part of it. The sun is a big part of it. Then I've got music. That's a big part of it. My friends give me a lot of joy. Beauty in general gives me a lot of joy. I'm very blessed to be surrounded by a lot of beauty in my life. That gives me great joy. So both playing music and listening to music brings me a lot of joy. What else? Food gives me a lot of joy. Doing tea gives me a lot of joy.
Man, tea's been big for me too. Yeah.
It's like I literally, if I add it all up, I'm very joyful, and I that's by my own choice and design, because I could quite easily go, why would I, like, what's the point? There's too much going on in the world. Like, there's too much fuckery in the world. How can I possibly enjoy tea? Then I've just given in to the offer of, like, that's the agreement then. Yeah. By my agreement, not by the world's agreement or by whoever's doing the bad stuff, by mine. I've just closed that loop. Yeah. There's no other possibility now. And I believe that there's infinite possibilities. So that's why I think it's so important to do that, is to find a lot of joy in just the smallest things. It doesn't have to be, well, I'm going to jump out of a helicopter with, like, a Hugo Boss suit and then snowboard down this mountain, get picked up by a Ferrari, just have Coke and champagne with hookers everywhere. It's like, it doesn't have to be like, oh, then we're going to a mansion. It's not like that. You know, it's like the simple things, and and there's a lot. I do have come to a place, having been in that place, where I'm like, why would you bring kids in the world? It's far. And then, or like, how can you enjoy yourself when, and the only reason I speak like this now is because I've been there and I know what it's like, you know, but now I know my life is a lot better. Not only is my life better, but I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, I'm bringing more value into the world now, being more joyful than I was knowing intellectually all the bad stuff in the world and not focusing on any kind of joy. Yeah, man. Why is tea so good for you? Why has it been so good for you recently?
Because it's been really helping me to create a strong, grounded pathway of presence in my brain on a day-to-day basis. It's like an anchor, to use that word again. It's been probably the strongest anchor I've ever had in my life, and I've gone through many different spiritual practices. Plant medicines for me have always been like this. It's like a magnet coming together and then flinging off and flying around, and then 2 months later doing a plant medicine again and being like, fuck, you know, and then going and drifting off, and then getting into yoga, getting into meditation and other practices, perhaps a bit more steady. But tea, don't know why, but it's just, for me personally, been very strong in grounding that pathway. But there are so many other things in my life that are coming clear at this moment in time as well. Like, tea's come into my life at the same time where I've actually finally gotten to the stage where I can let myself play music and sing in a way that I wish I could my whole life, like going years back. And that's been a huge thing.
Wait, do you mean having the time to do it, or not judging yourself?
Yeah, like the freedom that has come from letting go of the trauma crap that was stuck to me that I couldn't really see very clearly. And a whole range of other things. My boy is like coming up to 2 years of age, and he's like blossoming into a boy out of a baby into a boy. And that's like the most incredible thing that I could imagine anyone
we were having
experience.
A good chat before. He's very like, he's maturing. He's not shy.
No, he's pretty, but you know what? He's pretty aware of weird energies. Hey, like he'll go shy and he'll back away from people when they're not in their body. And it's pretty interesting. It's pretty switched on, but that's probably because I didn't inject heavy metals and chemicals into his veins when he was born. So, but yeah, he's a beauty. And
yeah, he is.
Anyway, I could rattle on, mate. I've got a list of things that are bringing joy to me as high as the sky. And I'm incredibly grateful.
Well, you were saying before, because originally, you know, last time you said, if we do this again, maybe we'll do a morning one and you'll bring us coffee instead of tea. But you said before we started, you said, you're glad I bought tea because you're already, you know, you don't need the coffee to...
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah, especially after a year and a half of really feeling like I needed it to stay awake with a baby because that was punishing. So it's been good to get out of that cycle. Yeah. I'd just run into friends I haven't seen for weeks in the street and they'd be like, "Are you all right?" I'd feel like I was looking fine, but they'd be like, "Are you okay?" It's like clearly I was like not looking very well.
Yeah, right. Strung out, you mean?
Strung out, exhausted, riding on stress and coffee and whew.
Yeah.
It's hard, mate. We need to bring back some community living. Had another really good friend give birth to their first up in Coonawarra Range, and he's a pediatrician, you know, and he kind of had this feeling like it seemed as though he felt like he'd be able to handle it quite well, and he could see that some people had a really tough time with children, but he thought he was going to be quite good. It's only just been born, the little boy, but he was humbled by how intense it is and how challenging it is, especially with the sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
And the first thing he said, like, I hadn't seen him in a couple of weeks, and I dropped something off to him that I had of his, and he was just like, "We need to be living in a community." And I was like, yeah, well, it's pretty retarded, like how disconnected we are from where we once came.
Definitely.
Every man for themselves.
Yeah. Yep, it's a huge thing, and I think a lot of us are getting more and more. The harder life gets, kind of thing for some people. I always find that that's nature's way of balancing itself out and regulating. Is that it makes people there's an old loop. It's like hard times create hard people, and then that creates soft people.
Strong, yeah.
And then the soft people create hard times, and the hard times create. It's kind of like when this happens, it brings people back into not being greedy and being not just, I'm just going to do this and then do that, and then it's kind of buy as much stuff as I can.
Yeah,
and it brings people back into going, life would be better if we were in community. So it's never a bad thing. I think it's good.
Mate, it's just processes, isn't it? Yeah. And we talked about this the first time, but I kind of shy away from talking like this sometimes because I know how many people are suffering, you know. And I get messages all the time from people like in really shit situations. But like, I'm really fucking excited. I'm really happy to be alive. And these times it's like I get to play a tremendous role. It's an exciting game to play. And just to be a part of it's incredible. And I wish that I could just like touch people's foreheads and somehow download that feeling. But
well, generally
it's their experience.
But they'll also generally pick that up off you anyway. If you're really embodying that yourself, they'll feel better around you. Because there's a difference between gloating, which is because I see people doing that. They're like, "Oh, life's so awesome. I just spent, all day at the day spa yesterday. I'm going to Ibiza tomorrow and on a private jet." And they're not really happy though. Yeah. So it just comes across as gloating. And but when you're just embodying a deep sense of gratitude and joy and appreciation for life, that does rub off. You don't need to touch their forehead. That's kind of like
you're
that,
right.
That does. People pick up on it.
Too true, bro. Which is why that's kind of like it's part of our responsibility, because that's how we affect. Just like you were saying, like, exactly. And in the opposite direction, if we're funneling downwards, we're contributing to the destruction.
Doesn't help anything. It's like the way water structures. If this is poorly structured, it doesn't help anything else. But if we put time and prayer and energy into this, then we put it next to that one and leave it for a bit, that one structures that one. And then it has that flow-on effect. It's I'm just like
6 feet safe. Keep everyone apart from each other. Pretty fucking simple, isn't it?
Yeah. It's
fill them with fear and
just so you know.
Oh yeah.
If you want to get over to the class, you'll have to go in about 5 minutes. But
okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can turn up at 10 past. Simon never cares.
Well, let's just can that one. Are they every day? No.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's cool. It would have been nice to go with you, but I'll just try and tune in with them tomorrow. If I don't like rushing. If it's 10, 15 minutes, like, nah.
Yeah.
I'll just go tune in with them tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, well, I'll go. I just, what was I doing? I can't remember. I've just been doing a lot of different stuff, and there's nothing wrong. It's like but I can just feel that there's a slight instability there. And if I go and somebody just, you know, throws a guillotine on me or something, I'm just like, that's going to go. So I just thought I'm going to do my own workout at home. I'm going to just do some just movement and stuff to get the body more free. And then I'll do a jits class later in the week.
Cool.
Or next week. Simon's is a great class though. It's like, it's the most playful of the classes. So if you want, we could just say next Wednesday, that's what we do. We'll go there.
Cool. Sounds good.
And yeah, because it's a really good class.
It'd be great if they took that studio because it's a pretty large, open, cool space.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, keen to get into it. I don't know how I'll respond to it. Like, I haven't been like boyishly physical with other people for a long time. Like, but I know there's something that would be helpful for me, like beneficial to kind of open into that, you know, like
my partner, she used to go because she always had an issue with me just being angry and stuff, even though I wasn't like outwardly angry, but she's really sensitive, so she can tell if there's an undercurrent of stuff. And there was one guy who followed my channels, and he's like, oh, I see you do jiu-jitsu, I'm a brown belt, you know, if you want, I'll just come in, I can just give you I want to give back to you and do some lessons. Great guy, he's French. And he was down here for a while, but he had to move up north because, you know, some things with his property he was on didn't work out. But cool guy. And anyway, we'd wrestle on that. And then afterwards, my partner would go, I want you to do jiu-jitsu more often because something in me, something washes
shifted.
out. And after you do it. So I think it's very important for men to do not just physical things, but physical things like combat with people, not just like lifting weights. That's great. But there's something that we get when we bond in that way. You know what the really funny thing is about it is a lot of people have some weird like gayness around wrestling or something, right? Because if you look at jiu-jitsu, like guard, for example, if you were not clothed, it would look like you were in a porno. That's what it looks. And so if you do jiu-jitsu with a girl, for example, sometimes they might just like laugh a lot because they're like, that's a compromised position that you're in right there. And but then once you get over that, it's like anything, you know, you can touch somebody on the shoulder any way you want, but if you touch them like this, it's like, fuck, you know? So it's the way you do anything. So sometimes jiu-jitsu or wrestling looks a little like, why are you behind that guy? You know, why are you in north-south position?
Yeah.
It looks sus. But it's not.
I could see Owen Benjamin like tearing it apart, like on a live stream.
He thinks the UFC is the gayest thing ever.
Does he? Yeah, classic.
But it's like you need to experience it, and there's something so.
He just needs a good wrestle.
Yeah, at least 6'8" too. He'd probably be.
Is he 6'8"?
Yeah, he's a beast. But
classic.
Yeah, but look, if you experience it, and it's something very healing and powerful, and it's being around and doing that and around other men helps bring the masculinity and the testosterone up in a healthy way.
For sure.
It releases anger and things. It's very good for your awareness, body awareness, and bonding with people. There's everything about it is super positive for women too. But you know, for men, you say you haven't had that boyish thing for a while. Yeah, I think it's really, really powerful and positive.
Yeah, for sure. I was always like that growing up, like playing soccer, rugby, and going to the gym with mates, and just always being, you know, like quite physical and touching and, you know, punching, and it was always good. But yeah, it just faded off. Just haven't had a relationship like that for a while, I guess. Like
it does as you get older. I find that with a lot of people, unless they specifically seek it out, you know. And because also when you start to become more self-aware, oftentimes that requires that you spend more time in solitude and doing things like meditation or connecting with trees and stuff. And do you know what I mean? And other people who you would think, oh, they're not spiritually aware, they're doing, you know, kickboxing and that every day of the week. Doesn't mean they're not, but it's just there is a degree, I think, of it helps if you go into a period of more be by yourself and you're not engaged in that. Because I did it too. You know, I competed professionally in sport like that, and then just after a while, I wasn't doing it. Yeah, and I went for ages without, you know, wrestling with other men. And then when you go and do it again, you're like, man, I can't believe this wasn't a part of my life for quite a long time.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely need an outlet for that, like something that has not very often, but every now and then, which brings me great shame, and I'll share it with you because I'm not ashamed to share my shame.
Yeah. That's good.
And parents will resonate with this. Like everyone with a child that's had a child will resonate with this. And so the last time happened actually very recently. I did a market stall for my new business, and like interacting with people all day. It's great. I like that kind of work, explaining what I'm passionate about, but you're getting all the energies from them and it's very tiring. Added on another half of the day after that, bathing, dinner, and the rest, and it's time to put Tavi to sleep. And he just wouldn't go to sleep, and I was so at my limit, and I got to the point where I was like, didn't yell at him, but I let out anger at him, directed at him for not just smoothly going off to bed. Kind of just like, go to sleep, like, fuck, like, I'm so tired, And then as soon as it comes out, like, oh my God, like the worst feeling you've ever felt, like, and I can understand how men like who commit domestic violence and stuff like that, like how that happens. That's an extreme, obviously, an expression of that, like not having any avenue for that aggression, and obviously being in an unhealthy relationship probably, and just unhealthy in general. But how it happens, you get to that point where what happens is you just disconnect from your rational, grounded self. It's like poof, and yeah, it's a horrible feeling. But I know that if there is, but I don't have anything in my life where there's no avenues for me for that energy ever. And if I had that, even if it was once a week, I know that would never be an issue. It very rarely is now, but yeah, so I'm very interested to, looking forward to it.
It's
to be a better man.
There's not much that compares, but there are. So maybe we can talk about that quickly, so people can maybe realize that there's other avenues for it. Because one of the reasons that I didn't do it anymore was because I got really sick and I just couldn't. I couldn't train anymore, and so like that was really hard for me, not being able to, being very physical and not being able to train. So that was really difficult. So that bred in more anger and more sadness and more other things because I couldn't do the things I loved doing. And but there are other ways to do that. So, for example, like just random example before I continue that is some people need more sweetness in their life. So then they go, well, I'll just eat lollies. Like as in constitutionally, they need sweetness. There's too much bitterness, And yes, that relates to foods. But then the first thing people think of usually is, well, I'll just eat more fruits, or I'll just start having ice cream after every meal. Well, that's one form of sweetness, but so is like watching a kid pat a puppy. That's sweetness too. That's your metaphysical food. So sometimes when we need to we need to wrestle, maybe you could wrestle something else. You could wrestle your demons.
Baby.
This will put you to sleep. Like, take 3 seconds.
But yeah.
But you can metaphysically do stuff. It's the same energy. It's just the extended version of. So for me, what helped a lot was music. So if I, not just listening to, not just playing, but sometimes when I combine those two things, for example, if I put on Invincible, that song that I said that guy was talking about by Tool, if I put that on through some good speakers at a volume that you can feel, not just hear, and I'm playing along at the same time, I get through the 13 odd minutes that song goes for, and my energetics will be the equivalent of having wrestled for 13 minutes. Like I'll be that much calmer. There's something in there that some aggression comes out because of the rhythms that I'm not just hearing, but I'm being part of, and I'm playing, and it's all...
There's energy.
Yeah, that for me is one of them. When people have porn addictions and that, and they need to jack off a lot, it's like, that's pure creative energy. So instead of doing that, when you feel that feeling come up, instead of, that's a pattern of going to porn, for example, you can use that to like, okay, that's creative energy. What can I do with it? And you might start journaling, or you might play music, or for example, you say you haven't had it for a while and you haven't had a way to do it. Well, for me, music's one. I'm not saying it's going to be like that for everybody, but specifically percussion. Like you're probably not going to put a drum kit in here.
I actually had an electric kit. I was thinking about getting another one because fuck, it's so much fun. Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. So that's a great example because that'll take you part of the way. I've had an electric kit before as well. And you hear it, but you don't feel it.
Yeah, okay.
That's the thing, is that if you hit toms, get a 16 and a 20-inch floor tom, and you're smacking them with like you're playing some Tool or something, because some of it, yes, it's super complex, but other parts of it are actually quite simple and relatively basic.
Yep.
And there's just a lot of power in the rhythm. And if you get into that and you feel the reverberations off the kick drum and the floor toms, and it's a very physical thing. And you could play some light jazz if you feel different from if you're smacking out some Meshuggah or some Tool, like a heavy rhythm. Totally different feeling in the body. And so you can definitely get these kinds of energies balanced out with, if you can't wrestle, for example.
Yep.
That's just one of many different ways you could do it.
When I first met Ayana, she taught me about mouth screaming. Hand screaming. It's just like when you put your hands over your mouth and kind of like either on face down on the pillow or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Or underwater screaming.
Yeah,
I'm just bringing that up because like a lot of people would hear us say, just get on your drum kit, and they either don't have a drum kit or don't know how to play.
Yeah.
And same with guitars. Yeah.
I did that a few times because this is probably a good topic, because surfing's always been one of my absolute favorite things. And then again, when I couldn't do it for a long time, it filled me with a lot of sadness and anger and everything. But then one of the things I noticed myself was I wasn't getting in the joy as much as I probably should. For example, I'd get a wave, I'd surf it not to my liking and just be like, flick off, not even appreciate the wave, paddle out, like hunting the next one.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting on the beach one time at sunset watching this girl take off on a wave at Currumbin. And she took off, stood up, goes straight, as in down the wave, then the white water. And that would just be like...
huge.
Well, for me, I'd be like, oh my God. But she
was
sticks her arms in the air, both of them, and just rides like this. And I'm just like, why aren't I like that anymore? And I remembered, I'm like, when I first started surfing, I remember how much just pure joy came out from even being on a wave, even sitting out there in the water. I'm like, oh my God. It's like this with anything, anything you progress at, you can lose that initial excitement.
Yeah.
And I watched her and I was like, that's the best reminder, because she's having a better time than me doing, some fin waft off and then not being happy with how I did it, or losing speed off the bottom of it. So I'm like, oh, I cooped that. That was a shit wave. It's like, no, it wasn't. And watching that. So when, one of the things I used to do, because anger's been an issue for me, and especially if you're overly toxic, your liver's not working, you're chronic, whatever, I would sometimes be paddling out and just get furious because the paddle out was too hard or taking too long. Yeah. And I'd duck dive and then get pulled back too hard. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. I'd be like, I would get off my board, get underwater, or if I missed a wave or something, or somebody else goes for a wave, I'm stroking into it too. I'm like, no, he's got it. So I pull off and then he kooks it or he falls off the back and I'm just like comes up. So I go underwater and I just go, fuck! Like really yell it out underwater, come up to the surface and I'm like, oh, I'm good. And just wait for a wave. And it's so important for me to get it out like that in the moment, because it vanishes then. It's like something that, like an entity lifts out and it just vanishes off. I'm like, oh, good, I feel good now. But otherwise it stews.
It stews in there, mate. Yeah.
So what do you call it? Hand screaming.
Hand screaming. That's all she called it. Yeah. And it was funny because I thought I was the man when we first met. Like I'd just gotten back from Peru. I did all this plant medicine and like meditation in the mountains, and definitely like, I don't know if I've ever told you, but like not so long ago, I was a pouch every 3 day smoker, and like I was into my drugs and alcohol from a young age till about 21, 22. It's a pretty common story. It's nothing crazy, but anyway, so I had come a long way. But when she introduced it to me, I was unable to do it. It was so funny. Like I was so, I don't know, I guess afraid of what was going to come out, or afraid of how she would perceive me or think of me to watch me to scream into my hands.
Yep.
So yeah.
As in you didn't want her to see it.
I guess so, yeah. Like it was like a self-consciousness thing.
You can go and grab it. I'll tell everyone a joke while you're off. Cool. Because I think
I'm just going to take a pee then quick.
All right. People who edit podcasts, I think, are like amateurs. I don't think you should edit a podcast. I was getting back to people because I'm looking at getting some new items for audio so that I can have a better setup like this. But hey, did you need me to move the car at all? Is that why you were? behind yours? Okay, well, I thought some parked behind someone. Yeah. It's alright, it doesn't matter.
That's so weird because I looked and I was like, oh, that's funny, like his car is not here.
Oh no, that's right. It's not. It's getting its tires done. That's why I'm looking. Yeah, thanks.
Oh, fuck,
I'm going insane.
Stole your car.
No, I'm literally looking through. Yeah, okay, so that's why that there. Yeah, getting my tires done. So a few things have gone not quite right recently. Like both cars, one's shared with somebody and one's mine, not functioning. So, and then my laptop yesterday fried itself. So it's like something is happening that's preventing me, or I'm preventing myself from stepping into what I believe that I need to be doing, which is being more creative and being in a flow with creating. Just saying that both cars that I have in the shop getting some repairs because they're not functioning, and my laptop fried itself yesterday.
Oh,
So
shit.
it's like, yeah, something or me is preventing me from, doing what I need to be doing.
Yeah,
and
wow.
stuff. So it's quite interesting. But yeah, I was actually this guy is bringing it down because I get most things when I can. I get them secondhand off Marketplace or whatever. So I'm getting a preamp audio interface
Cool.
from a guy who's bringing it down to me. So that's pretty cool. And I was just checking to see if the tire shop had rang.
Yeah,
I would have
nice.
just I'll put yours now.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, there's it's a big thing, and the whole masculine thing and men embodying themselves and not being afraid of their because this is such a big element to being masculine is being okay with the fact that if you want to scorch the earth, you can. If you want to take someone's head off and eat their brains out, you can. Like that's what you can do as a man. I mean, I'm sure women can do it too, but to try to neuter that aspect of yourself, which is a God-given aspect, I don't believe to be, I'm not saying I'm right either, but I don't believe that to be, I think that's one of those new age deception things where men aren't supposed to be aggressive or have aggression in them or have the capacity to literally just scorch the earth and everything in its path.
Yeah.
Being able to temper that to transmute it into something powerful and positive and creative is, I think, the one of the things we should aim for. But
Absolutely.
to think that it's not there, like one of the issues I've had with people before is where they don't have a capacity to integrate their own darkness. They fear it so much that you can't say anything bad. You can't ever get angry. You can't ever whatever, because they're so scared of that dark aspect. So in turn, they actually make that such a greater shadow that it's more dangerous than occasionally being angry or admitting it. Like, I'd love to punch that dude in the face.
Yep.
You don't have to act on it, but to pretend it's not there, I don't think it's a healthy thing. And then finding ways to channel that and transmute it. How can you make that more positive? Can you communicate better? Maybe you do need to go play some drums for a bit, and maybe through that, maybe that anger made you create some new groove, and you're like, oh my God, that's that transmutation alchemy thing, where it's like, I took that instead of pretending that it's not there, and I never get angry. Get on the drum kit or get on the guitar and you just create some riff and you're like, oh my God. And then you write that and you work on it and progress it. And then you write a song and record it. Someone else hears it and they're sitting on the bus and they're having a horrible day and they're like, this riff comes on and they're like, what the fuck is that? And then all of a sudden they're having a much better day. It's like, again, the vibration is raised because of what was anger. It's transmuted into this, and he's done a beautiful thing in the world. It's like so powerful.
Do you feel like Tool where is that energy coming from? Primarily? Because they're definitely tapping into the masculine, obviously, but would you call it anger? Because I feel it's so grounded.
I don't think it's anger
very
at
kind
all.
of control. I mean, you could maybe put the same word on a different thing. Like anger, we perceive it as an expression of an energy. It's the same energy, but just held and expressed in a different way, perhaps.
Earlier Tool, I would say yes, but not some of the music, but more Maynard's singing. Because he even said it. He said that, I mean, he's 50-something now. They've been going for over 20 years. So when I remember him saying one time he just doesn't want to play some of those older songs because he's not angry anymore. He doesn't want to yell and scream. Because in some of the songs like The Grudge, and The Grudge was off the Lateralis album, which was mid-90s, I think. And at the time they were having a huge legal dispute with their record label. And the grudge is about that. And same as ticks and leeches. It's all about how these are parasitic corporations and that, and they're trying to control you and leech off you and all that. And the grudge is about that. Wear the grudge like a crown of negativity, and calculate what you will and will not tolerate. Desperate to control all and everything. So it's all about that. And he's one of the screams he does in it is like he's got like a record for the longest scream on one breath. That's
Really?
through a
Classic.
But he's not angry. He's not that angry anymore. He doesn't want to sing like that. So that if they play that song live, they do it differently. And they've progressed obviously in their music. Like if you listen to Fear Inoculum, the more recent album, I mean, I don't sense anger. I get such
It's awakening.
lift, like the amount of like
100%.
pneuma. Like pneuma is about
Pneuma,
the spirit, the breath of life. It's just, and the way he sings, for example.
Wake up, remember.
Oh man, it's just like,
So good.
This friend that put me onto Shervin, or Chavine or whatever his name is, she was saying how he's been explaining tools, so that's why she's actually a bit more interested in finding out. And I'm like, Fear Inoculum, like the name, fear, and then inoculum. She's like, what's an inoculum? I'm like, well, that's you inoculate against like a disease, it's according to germ theory sort of thing. So an inoculum is like a cure for or prevention of. It's called Fear Inoculum, and the graphic on it was like a syringe. And that came out
at the beginning of the pandemic. It's
before.
Like just before.
It was September 2019, I think that came out. And 2 months later or whatever, COVID's out. And it's everyone was going, uncanny, dude, like what? Because, you know, there's already a lot of... Danny Carey, the drummer, is known to be an occult aficionado and stuff. Yeah. That's not a bad thing. Occult just means hidden. And it's just like... It's not like an evil thing. There's definitely people who question tools underpinnings, where what their affiliations are, why a lot of whys about tool. But I think we'll talk about that and explain why I don't believe it to be a negative thing. But the album, people is like, come on, like you can't put that out in 2019 with the name of the album like that and some of the names of the song and the lyrics in the songs, and then this happens. It's like, how did you guys are tapped into something, you're part of some organization that knows what's about to come out, because it was like, you can't script that stuff. Like that's, it was foretelling what was coming.
I reckon they're tapped in, but they're tapped into creator.
Possibly. So the reason that I think that it's a powerful thing is that if you listen to the songs, even if they knew what was coming because they're aware of it and whatever, it's the inoculum. Like if you listen to the lyrics, it makes you feel like you are winning. It was foretelling this battle that we're about to go through, but the lyrics are about like descending, like the lyrics in that. I mean, I could go through it's all about like,
maybe we can read one out, like descending at some point before we close. Yeah.
It's like going, right, let's do that, because it's literally about, this is it. This is the thing. This is why we're here, and we win. And it's like, that's the inoculum. It's like, it's squashing the fear. And when you can do that, you're so hopeful and high vibrational that you will be. It's the answer to stuff, and it's not only in the lyrics. It's in the time signatures. It's in the choice of notes. It's in the phrasing. It's everything about it. I feel, for me, I find it's so uplifting. Yeah. That it is literally the inoculum for the fear that this whole agenda was designed to bring. So it's almost like they bought it out ahead of time. They're like, we're inoculating you guys.
Getting ready.
A couple of months. Get yourselves ready, because you guys are going to be some of the ones that are going to carry this through.
Man, it's so interesting hearing you speak about this, because it was for me exactly that. Because I got it on, we moved to Crabs Creek from Sydney in the beginning of 2020, just after things had popped off. And there was a basketball court near the house, and I would go down and play I hadn't played in years, but I bought a basketball and I made that my workout, and I put a UE boom under the net and played that album on repeat a stupid amount of time. Like, it was the only music I was listening to. It was just that album. Yeah. That was it for close to like 3 months probably, and just shooting hoops every day, and then listening every time I got in the car, and then like at home also. And it, definitely felt like it transformed me. Like it moved me it started the motion of where I needed to go, for sure.
Is that where you were when you first heard the album, on that basketball court, first play?
No, I was already a fan of Tool. And so when No,
I mean Fear Inoculum, the album.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'd heard it before.
I'd heard it before
okay.
the basketball, yeah.
Yeah.
But it just became part of my ritual because I was just like...
Where were you when you first heard it? What were you doing?
I know that I was driving. I think I found out about the album while I was driving. You know how Spotify would be like, released a new album? And because Tool wasn't even on Spotify.
No.
So it was like, and I was like, whoa, holy shit. And I had that double realization. It's like, Tool's on Spotify and there's a new album. Like, what? Holy fuck. And I just played it from the start. And Fear Inoculum, the title track, the first track, is like, it speaks to the time that it was like it was scripted. Yeah. It was crazy. And I was just glued to it ever since. Like,
it's amazing stuff.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
I remember it because I've always been like even this is the worst phone. Like this is broken. I can't use the back camera. It's so cracked. It's slow. I never update the software. It's shit. I actually hate it because I just don't like phones. But I don't have internet, you know. And so I remember to get the album, I knew it had come out on a certain date. It might have been 19th of September. I can't actually remember. But the date that it came out, I made sure I went down to Mullum, stood outside Flash Computers. Shout out to Flash, they're great there. He's a legend. He's one of those guys that was doing the right thing through all the nonsense in that, you know, like treating respectfully customers, like, you know, all that
handing out Wi-Fi to Tool fans.
Well, you know, I just already had the login for the Wi-Fi there, and I knew we didn't change it that often. So I stood outside Flash Computers, downloaded the album because my brother hooked me up with a Google Play Music
link
YouTube
or whatever,
music account thing off his, because I couldn't afford anything like that at the time, and downloaded it and just knew it was there. So it's on my phone, it's there, and I'm just like, but I'm not going to listen to it yet, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait, and I'm going to do it tonight. So it's like, I was so super excited. I'm like, I can't wait to listen to this. And then I waited till I could light a fire, and I sat out under the stars with my good quality headphones, and that's when I put it on. I just listened start to finish. And it was just, there was moments in that where I didn't have anything up. I didn't know the lyrics. I was just taking it in. And a few things grabbed me. And this is what happens, I think, a lot when you're tapping into something that's different types of music do different things. Like if you listen to Imagine by John Lennon or Mad World or Stairway to Heaven's more cryptic. Just anything that's just simple. It's like A minor, C, G, A minor, C, G, maybe throw a D in and then A minor, C. Just your standard 3-chord progression, standard song structure, standard melody structure. There's something very familiar about it. Nothing technical and therefore nothing super inspiring, but it's so simple that you get the song on your first listen, you know? And you'll never grow beyond that probably, but it innately hits at a core human level, and that song will be great forever, you know, like those timeless songs. But bands like Tool are different, and Dream Theater, I think, for me is the benchmark for this. Do you know of Dream Theater?
No.
So Dream Theater are a progressive rock band. Got 5, I think, members. Every member of the band is a virtuoso musician. They all met at Juilliard, which is a very prestigious music school in New York, maybe. Might be wrong about that, but the States, it's like, if you get into Juilliard, you're like extremely good musician. So these guys all met there. You got John Petrucci on guitar, who's just like, I mean, he's got more riffs in one Dream Theater song, than most people have in an entire album or 2 albums. Like the amount of different sections in the songs, the way that he'll do unison with Jordan Rudess, the keyboard player, and then the drummer, Mike Portnoy. It's just like everything they do is just, you don't get better at your instrument than these guys on each of their individual, and John Myung on bass.
And it's progressive
metal, rock's just rock, it's progressive rock. For those that don't know, is like, rock is generally heavier in nature. It's got a heavy downbeat, and generally in 4/4 is time signature, like 1 2 3 4 1 2. Like that's your standard rock. Heavy downbeats, driving kind of feel, moving forward. Progressive rock is kind of like a lot more of a journey, and you won't have intro, verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus, solo, verse, chorus, outro. Like that's kind of like a standard, for example, long song in rock. Most are shorter than that in their structure. Whereas progressive rock is you start here, then you climb the mountain, then you swim through the stream, and then you might circle back and go through that mountain over there. You don't go mountain, stream, mountain, stream, mountain, stream, path, mountain, stream, path, finish. Like it's not like a set structure.
Yep.
and you could have solos anywhere. You could have 4 or 5 minutes of the song playing before there's any lyrics. It's like there's no, and generally speaking too, you'll change time signature, tempo, style, many different things within the one song. So it's very progressive and usually a lot more complex. It tends to appeal to people who are a bit intellectual in that and like complexity in things.
Yep.
And with Dream Theater, sometimes when I first was getting acquainted with them, there were some songs I just couldn't gel with. Just didn't like them. It was like the song's here and I'm on this layer of ice kind of thing. I'm like, I can't get into this song. But then when you hear it more and more, there'll be one part of it that'll hook you. It might be like a bend in solo, or it might be the solo, or it might be some blast beat on the double kick pedals, or a fill. Something where you've broken through that layer and now you're in the song and now you're like, oh, this song's actually amazing, and you start getting other aspects. But you could explore that song for 20 years and find more depth to it.
Yeah.
Like when I write music, because of the music that I listen to, the drum beat's not just a drum beat. I could listen to the whole song. Prog rock's generally longer in nature too.
Yeah.
Like 6 minutes would be the minimum, or like 10 minutes plus for a prog rock song. And you might just be able to follow the hi-hat alone through the whole, and that's a journey. It's not just going to be like a down, like, 8 notes the whole way through. It's going to be a lot of different stuff happening only on the hi-hat. Then you might only follow the bass on another listen through. And just, that's a journey in itself. And that's what Dream Theater is like, and tools like that too, where there's a lot in it. You could follow any one aspect and glean a lot of insight just from that one aspect of the music.
Yeah.
And that's why you could not get bored with it. You learn and learn and learn. And so especially with Fear Inoculum, there's so much in it where if you were just to follow one aspect, you could probably figure out a lot about yourself or the world, or what's hidden in it. That's the occult thing, what's hidden in there.
Yeah.
Without it being evil, because some people say things like, why are you listening to Tool? Like they have some evil connotation. And I'm like, well, I don't know that there is. I'm not saying that there isn't. There might be, but at this point in my journey of life, I'm not yet at a level where I'm beyond whatever they're playing. So maybe there'll be a time where I don't listen to that sort of stuff.
Yep.
But at the moment, I'm not going to not listen to their music because of the possibility that they're Freemasons or something.
Yeah.
And even on the day, if it was true, if I found out, if I'm not beyond the music, I'm not going to not listen to it, because like we were talking about before, there's still value in there for me. I'm not going to just throw everything out because of some label. And then
your awareness is your protection.
Yes.
It's like what we're talking about with that mantra shit, right? Like if you're of a high awareness, you can stand in the pits of hell and you won't be burnt. So
I really love that. Do you want to just re-explore that? Because when you were talking about it, I was noticing that when I'm relating that to the way natural law works, it's nothing happens in this realm. My current understanding is nothing happens in this realm without consent. It's a consent-based realm.
yeah.
So therefore, if something is trying to penetrate you, like let's say an entity is trying to enter you, or somebody writes music with spell in it, and their intention is for it to infiltrate you and cast a spell. But if you have the awareness, which is what you brought up, and you're like, I'm aware of what your intention is, but I don't agree to it. I do not consent to that. Therefore, I'm going to take the rhythm and fucking love that rhythm, but you're not having your spell.
Yeah.
And that way you own it, because it takes your consent through. And for those that don't know, consent is your conscious decision to agree. That's your awareness, right? But have you heard me talk about assent?
Yeah, but please remind me.
So assent's the unconscious decision to agree.
Yeah,
and
of course.
It usually happens by way of silence, because you just don't know what's going on. So if I say to you, Sam, I'm going to enter you energetically, and I'm going to own you, and I'm going to control you. But I might not say it in words. I might do it like this, where I'm like, that's what that means. And then you in some way take that on and you agree to it because you consent. That's why whenever I see chemtrails, I'm going to host a town meeting and record it where I explain my theories on how we can handle all of this. But one of the primary aspects of it is that I don't consent to that. When I see it, I don't consent to whatever you're trying to do, to whether you're blocking out the energetics of the stars and the sun, and therefore we're not materializing minerals properly, or whether you're trying to block the masculine, whatever you're trying to do, I don't consent to it. So on every level in myself, I'm not having that. Because if I just go, you assholes, or, oh, I can't believe they're spraying again today, that doesn't put a non-consent to the offer. Whether it's consent or assent, which is the unconscious decision, they win if I don't go, no, I don't accept that. I'm not forming the agreement that you have power over me by what you do with the sky. And so when we might not be 100% aware consciously, but we can also assent by just really being a bit too non-discerning about stuff.
Foolish and unconscious or unaware. Yeah.
Yeah. And even to the point where you might know that, and that's an awareness as well. Like, I don't know what's in that music, but because I don't know what's in that music, I'm going to make my own agreement. I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to enjoy the rhythm, the melody, and I'm going to enjoy some of the lyrics, but I don't consent to whatever hidden spells are in there. I don't consent to being controlled by it. I don't consent to that defining me or in any way taking ownership of me.
Yeah.
I'm me and I'm separate from you. You can form these agreements without, you don't have to know the full disclosure. But that's the power that we have is in, I can't even remember where I started that. Oh yeah, it was the awareness thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you have the awareness, that's one thing. If you don't have the awareness, set your own. You're not a passive thing in this world, just sitting waiting for offers. Make your offers of your own. Make agreements of your own. If you don't know what it's going to be, well, start making agreements. Start putting your energy out rather than just being like sitting waiting for something to blow you over here now and then blow you over there now, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. And make claims as to like what vibratory state you wish to kind of anchor in on and hold.
Yeah.
Because then if you raise in awareness and you raise in vibration, so you're more in a state of peace or joy all the time, and all of a sudden for some reason you're feeling bad or you're feeling lower than that, you should be able to have the awareness to be like, why am I not in that state? You're like, holy shit, I've been listening to a lot of this band that guy sent me through. And then you might listen to it again. You're like, shit, it's this music that's making me feel like this. So yeah, the awareness is key for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Super key is that awareness. So yeah, I'm glad we had this kind of chat too, because this is kind of some of the levels, not levels as in this, but some of the concepts that people, I don't think really explore themselves. Like they don't take into account how much say that they have. And I would find it extremely sad for somebody to go, well, Tool could possibly be this, so therefore I'm not going to listen to it. And I can gain no value from their music. And also to that is not being afraid of where you're at. And I'm more than happy to say to myself, actually, I've always wanted to do this. This is a good concept, is that I've wanted to take Tool and play it into something that to look at the fractal of the water, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Does it make a disharmonic? Does it...
Into you know how you sprouts and stuff like that maybe as well.
To see if it like takes away from life or helps life.
You know, there's such an easier way to do that. Yeah. Although I'm making that claim, but I don't know for sure. But it's only because of a few books that I've read recently, and I know that it's well established in the world. But kinesiology. Yeah, true. So muscle testing, making statements and muscle testing them around the music and Tool.
With a good kinesiologist.
With a good kinesiologist, yeah. Which I'm sure there's plenty around. But like the grandfathers of kinesiology just say you should be able to do it with anyone and yourself, as long as you know the rules.
Ones, you can do these, know the rules and that. But here's the thing, I do want to test it, but I don't think that there's where Tool is not good or Tool is good, because I think it will be different for each biological being, right? And this is the thing, is that let's say that there was a universal principle with Tool where no, that's a disharmonic frequency and resonance. It does not raise life, right? Yeah. Let's say that was true, but if I'm not yet, if I think I'm higher and mightier than I really am, then I'm missing a trick. And if I'm like, actually, I'm still pretty fucking dirty and disharmonic in the part of me that relates to Tool, I still want to go through that experience so that it's actually lived out and it's burnt out and now it's gone. Now it's not part of me anymore. Yeah. And then I'll be listening to Enya's greatest hits. Sail away.
Mate.
Not listening to Tool anymore.
It's very, very good point. And like, if you could imagine there's a line between all the infinite potential states of being, enlightenment at the top and shame and death at the bottom. In the middle is a line, and above that line is life supportive, and below it is life destructive, right? But if you're all the way at the bottom, anything above that is growth. So if you're in shame, apathy is a huge fucking step forward, you know, in life. Like, and you're not going to go from these lower realms to enlightenment unless you take DMT. But to, you know, courage or peace or love or whatever in a fucking week. You need to pull yourself up. And so, but then it comes back to awareness, because you just need to be able to feel and be sensitive to the truth of whether or not you are moving into a better reality, or if you're stuck, or if you're descending.
100%. Yeah, I love that, because that's, like you said, apathy is greater than like the shame. So like for where I'm at in my life, Tool brings me to a high level. I don't doubt it at all. I don't even think I need to measure it, but I'm still just interested to see what it does on like, what's the general resonance of it? Is it generally good or generally not? Because then that'll bring awareness to me of like, okay, well, I'm still pretty messed up. Hey, like I'm still in aggression. I'm still in, which I know I am. Like, I don't even need anyone to tell me that. I know I am.
Yeah.
So, but I have thought about it many times. Like, is there a point in time where I'll only be listening to like Tibetan singing bowls and stuff? You know, like stuff that's high frequency. Yeah. But at the moment, Tool serves a purpose for me, and it helps me grow.
Cool.
And I'm not going to give it up before my time. I'm not going to see a test done on it and go, well, Tool's disharmonic, therefore I'm not going to listen to it anymore, because I think I'm not doing that in the natural way. Yeah. And then by going to a point, technically speaking, higher than that, I will leave a shadow that's greater, that has more damaging effect, like I said before, about people who just can't handle it. They're not as clean as they think they are. Yeah.
Because then it's just moving into the, what is it, like suppression instead of the letting go, or to
expression.
The expression. Yeah, man, far out. That's pretty.
I just know how I feel. I know if I play Tool in a room, I don't have a room anymore, but like I don't know, if I play it in your tent, playing along, and I'm like, I know how much better I feel as a result of that, how inspired I am, and therefore in spirit I am from doing that. But some, like, you know, monk of some kind, it wouldn't. That'd bring them down a few pegs, or they'd probably feel shit from doing that. But I feel good from doing that. So for the time that it serves me in my own growth, I'll continue to do that. But I'm also not attached to it. I'm not like going to get Tool tattooed on me and like Tool till death, man. Yeah. And just, you know, I realize that there may be a point that music won't serve me anymore, and I won't listen to it anymore.
Yeah. I feel like I've gone through small feelings, evolutions of that with music, because like, I have gone through stages where all I'll listen to is mantra, and like if I hear a song with words, I'm just like, or like a pop song or something, even if it's like Bob Marley or something with a lot of heart and soul, I'm still like I don't get into it. I just want something that I can use as an anchor and to be here now with. And Tibetan bowls, or I ran into some Buddhist monks ages ago, and we were showing them, I was with a friend and we were listening to some music, and this is a cool story for the context we're talking about, and we tried to show them the music. We showed them the music we were listening to, because they asked, they're like, what are you listening to? And they were really friendly. We gave them fruit and talking to them for a while. And then we were like, what music do you guys listen to? And they're like, now we just listen to nature. We don't listen to anything except for nature. We used to listen to mantra music, and we used to listen to like orchestral kind of stuff, but now it's just the only thing we want to listen to is nature. And I thought that they were fucking bonkers at the time, but I can see how that progression happens.
Well, that's
now.
Actually what I do. I actually barely listen to music. When I say that's when I'm purposely wanting to engage into a certain expression. Yeah. But most of the time, because I know a lot of people put music on to like clean or to work out or to sit around. They're just sitting around and music's on. I can't stand it. If there's music on and I'm not purposefully like actually exploring,
journeying with it or whatever.
If I'm not doing that, I don't listen to it at all.
I'm the same now.
And I literally listen to nature most of the time. That's what I was going to say before. Actually, before you even said that story, it's interesting you said that, because that's how I see it too. Is that and there's nothing that can replicate it. That's the thing. Like, you know, that Zoom recorder you've got does a great job of capturing nature, but it's not it. No. It's a representation of it. It can never be it. Doesn't matter how good quality, like, you know, 128 kilohertz and all this. it's not the same. Some FLAC file, it's not the same. Like there's something about sound that we have not found a way to recreate because it's so all encompassing. Like you hear a bird and you hear the way nature, it's just you can't replicate it. And that's why I listen to that more, because it takes me to places that music can't do. But music has a specific, it's a more focused thing, you know? Like,
yeah.
And the thing about Tool is that I don't listen to it a lot, actually. It's funny. It's like I need a certain medicine, and it's that.
It's on the shelf. Yeah.
But you don't take medicine all the time for no reason.
Yeah.
And there's certain times where if I do feel like listening to music, I might be on a long drive and I'm like, all right, I'm going to listen to music to pass the time. Tool's not on the menu. I actually can't. I don't want to listen to it.
Yeah.
And when I listen to an album, I actually don't listen to every song on the album. It's a limited time thing for me because it's very intense, and I have to be into it, listening to it. I can't just listen to it for no reason. So yeah, it's
cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm at a similar stage in my journey with you then, man. It sounds like you're speaking from me almost.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But I do listen to a lot of mantra music. That might be the difference. Like I'm quite often got some mantra music going. Or actually now a lot is like the tea playlists from Cloud Hidden, and Ayana's been building her own. I've been finding that really nice as well. And I just pretend I'm like in a forest when I'm feeding Tavi and stuff. Like, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that you do, because me and my friends do tea. If we're outside, there's no music. It's literally hearing the birds and the wind and stuff, and it's even more powerful than the music. But the music has its place, because when you're in a room and you've got that sound, what would you call it? A soundscape or a sound field? Like it's an immersive, like it adds to the experience. So
hugely. Like it can be profound.
Yeah.
Like when things crescendo
Yeah.
And someone just bursts into tears in the corner and you're like, oh, I got you, mate.
Do you know what's interesting though? Because you said before you listen to mantra music, but not like pop with. If for some reason something comes on a playlist and there's words in it, just instantly takes me out of being immersed in the experience of, and there's one song that they used to play where it's like clouds, trees.
Oh yeah.
We're all one and it's all love and and I'm like, I'm out of it. This is just like.
That's not the East Forest song, is it? The Ram Dass one?
Maybe.
Da, 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 da. Like piano? Yeah.
Yeah. Just takes me out.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear a human.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear anyone sing stuff. I don't want to. I could handle tones.
Yeah.
But not. Yeah. It just
Set and
takes
setting.
me out. It's got to be more. Don't know what that word is. Whatever that. See that? Whatever that word is.
Atmospheric.
Yeah, something like that.
But that's actually one of my favorite albums. But yeah, maybe not in Tea Ceremony, but although I don't listen to that anymore either. But that was pretty cool. He actually went and just had an interview with Ram Dass quite close to when he died. It was like one of his last interviews, and then he turned it into an album and made music with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice. Like you said, there's this spark in us, and every time you do this, the spark, and it's like, that's cool, but I don't want to hear that when I'm in a place that's not linear.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you just hear this, and it's like, oh no, you're just putting too much structure to something that doesn't have structure. It just takes me out. That's only for me. It takes me out of it, not everybody. But
yeah, well, exactly what we were talking about before. Someone on wherever else on that spectrum will use it as an anchor and climb another rung.
Exactly.
Yeah. So. Yeah. But yeah, that's the whole problem with the whole realm of spirituality is the the rational side of it. That's why tea is so profound, because it's all in silence, I think. So, even if you go to a yoga class, it's like, now we're moving into this and now we're moving into that, like 99.9% of the time, and percentage of teachers out there don't really actually allow their students to fully get into their breath and body, because everyone's in their rational minds. Like, where do I go next? Or how do I do that? And what's that person behind me looking at?
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to read out Descending? Because we'll have to wrap up in a minute, or do you reckon? Yeah,
we're probably coming up to 3 hours.
Probably. So it's very poetic and stuff, obviously. You know, well, starting from Fury Inoculum, my favorite section of that is when it comes out of, it's like coming out of, it's 3/4 of the way through the song, and it's, your veil now lift away, I see you running, and then deceiver chased away, a long time coming. And this is where the way that it's produced adds to the effect of that, because the first bit, your veil now lift away, I see you running, he's got an envelope filter on his voice. So it sounds kind of like it sounds like on a phone almost, not to that degree, but that's like what an envelope filter does. And then that is taken off when he says deceiver chased away. Yeah. Long time coming. That's more like it's right into the mic, as opposed to like feeling like there's a filter between, which just does something to the way you experience it. And it's I love it. It's just every time I hear that, I'm just like, oh, come on. Like, it feels just fucking awesome. Yeah. But it's so true. Like, that's what this whole thing is. The veil lifts away. The veil is the thing that's preventing us from knowing ourselves. And as it lifts, you're like, oh, I see you in it. Like, there was a veil, which was, it's kind of like Plato's allegory of the cave. Like, you're seeing the shadows on the wall, and then you turn and you say, oh, I see you. And then I actually see you running. Because you're scared, you're not as powerful as us. So as the veil lifts, those ones that had it there and were controlling, they're not as powerful. So it's like, oh, I see you, and I see you running. That fills you with like, yeah, you know what it's like when somebody in sport, they might think they're losing. Oh no, we might lose. But as soon as you smell blood, you see in your opponents they're getting a bit tired. You're like, oh, I can win this, and all of a sudden you get that second win, and you feel powerful. That's what it's like when people realize, hang on, they're not that powerful. We are. And then, and then they become, oh, holy shit, like, we're going to do this. Yeah. And then deceive. So that's it then. It lifts, and then the deceiver's chased away. Yeah. And it's been a long time coming. There's been eons of time. It's not just like, oh, the last 2 years has been pretty hard. Yeah, It's like, no, tried 2002, however long, like way longer than that. Yeah. That's how long it's been. So that part of it is, I love that part of that song. And that kicks off the album. So so anyway, Descending is... kind of a lot of lyrics, but I'll read it out. It says, free fall through our midnight, this epilogue of our own fable. Heedless in our slumber, floating nescient, we free fall through this boundlessness, this madness of our own making. The reason I like that is because they are pretty much foretelling that this is like